Game 6 in the World Championship match was won for the history books. A world record and a dramatic win for Magnus Carlsen. He is now in the lead with 8 games left to play in Dubai. Will Nepomniachtchi make an immediate comeback today? Welcome to Chess 24 Global. Hours ago, we said goodnight to everyone at home after 8.5 hours in the studio enjoying some fantastic chess. But David, how are you today?
I don't even know how I am today, Kaja. It was an exhausting day. It was an exhilarating day. I felt full of energy afterwards, actually. I felt on a high just witnessing that historic chess game, and I'm hoping the players, they also feel on a high today, despite that marathon 8-hour game.
Yeah, but as a chess player, David, you are known for playing these super long 6, 7, even 8-hour games. Yeah. Do you think, Magnus, that you now have, lived with in Oslo for a year, do you think he felt inspired by you?
I hope so, and I can reveal that I did get a text from Magnus saying that this one was for me yesterday. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just impressed that these two great fighters were able to put on that show, and it's going to be fascinating today to see how they have recovered. Yeah,
and how will they be feeling today after, almost running 2 marathons in that playing venue yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. We know Magnus is physically fit. He loves these long games, and in general, he loves chess, so he'll sit there for hours. But maybe the question is for Nepomniachtchi. He's not used to being in that scenario. He's not used to being tortured for 8 hours, and to bounce back, it's going to be incredibly tough for him.
Yeah, he's going to have the white pieces today. Should he go for an immediate comeback, or is it a good idea now for Nepomniachtchi to just calm down, be solid?
Yeah, it's so tough, right, for Jan. If he's solid, if he just takes a quick draw, then tomorrow with the black pieces, if Magnus wins again, the match could be killed. The match might be over psychologically. But then again, if he goes too hard today, if he burns his bridges, it could rebound. So it's really difficult for Jan. I'm hoping he goes on the attack because I'd love to see what happens, but no guarantees. It's going to be difficult for him.
And Magnus Carlsen, now on a roll, obviously winning the first game here. He does see himself as the more physically fit guy. Could it be typical Magnus Carlsen to go for another long game and push for a win, even with black pieces?
Yeah, we wouldn't be surprised, right? He did also reveal in the press conference, he did mention that it was his strategy to play these long games, to just tire both players out as much as possible. He felt it would favor him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he maintains that strategy.
Yeah. Well, Game 6, you guys, it gave us time trouble. Both players were in winning positions. They were in losing positions. And eventually, it also gave us a world record. So here is a summary of a historical chess game. There we go.
What is it? What is it? Come on, English. Come on. Ah,
it's D4.
He's finding all these moves so quickly, Jan, which is impressive. Very impressive.
And he wants to play this move next, for sure.
We have a change of structure, but I'm very surprised Magnus has done that, actually. Very surprised. Okay. Oh, there you go.
There we go. That shows Magnus's ambitious intentions. Yep. He's not ready yet to guide this game towards a draw. He doesn't think he needs to play safety-first chess, and that's a positive sign for the fans.
So Magnus now, he has 18 minutes left to make 13 moves, and he does not have a queen on the board anymore.
Oh, he's retreated it. I think he's missed a great opportunity there. In these World Championship matches, you do not get many chances, and I feel that it might still be good for black, but that was a missed opportunity.
4-3. Oh. He made that move with just over 3 seconds left.
There's a wise decision, I think, to keep the minor pieces on the board.
Yeah, brilliant move.
Magnus, he's given up his queen already for some pieces. He tried to give up his rook earlier. Now he's given up his rook for sure. And Nepomniachtchi, you see on his face, he's kind of half smiling. He knows this game is going to go on forever now.
Look at the bar. What's happening? Is Magnus winning?
He's winning. Yeah. He can actually push his pawn forward, leave the white rook attacked, and this would be winning pretty much instantly. The computer says checkmate in 38.
We have our first win.
There we go.
We have it.
We have a handshake.
Brilliant.
The first decided game, and we hear applause from Dubai. Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, in Game 6. That always ends up with drama.
Yeah, now obviously I'm exhausted, but after a win, those are not easy to come by. Then I'm obviously elated.
A big smile on the world champion's face, and I bet also for his friends. Big smiles yesterday. We are joined again in the studio today by Jon Christian, general manager in Offerspill, the chess club for Magnus Carlsen, and a good friend. So take us through your emotional roller coaster yesterday.
Oof, it was really a tough one. I mean, it lasted for so long. I was out shopping some Christmas presents, and I wanted to rush back home to watch the game. But when I got home, the game lasted for 4 more hours, so no rush whatsoever. But yeah, that was really a roller coaster with a lot of ups and downs, and I'm really happy that Magnus got on top in the end.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're so happy to have you back. Social media has been screaming to get Jon Christian, the moustache man, back in the studio, right, Jovanka?
That's right. Social media has been very excited about everything, and I have to say yesterday's match was really such a pleasure and thrilling for everyone to watch. And I think Magnus summed up all the emotions yesterday in his tweet after the game, when he just simply wrote, yes, yes to a victory, the first one in 5 years. And again, it was a lengthy grind, so many emotions, and the match has been filled with incredible moments.
Yeah, that's such a genius tweet as well, right? After the longest game in World Championship history, yes, sums it up.
Yes, I mean, what else to say? But somehow it kind of captured the spirit of the whole action, and the fact that so much energy was put in, and the emotion behind it, because also you have to remember that Magnus really desperately wanted to win. Nepomniachtchi desperately holding on, and wow. And what can I say? And we also want everyone at home to be involved in this whole experience, which has been momentous so far. So we are asking you at home to show us your selfies. Where are you watching the match from? Who are you watching the match with? And you can also send us your thoughts, suggestions, questions, and we will feature them on the show. And you can do this all by tweeting us using the hashtag C24Live.
And maybe someone will be asking the moustache man to get rid of the moustache today. We have a plan for that, Jon Christian.
Apparently so, I've been told. Yeah, I mean, we spoke a little bit about it, and it's really a prolonged Movember. So maybe it will disappear during the broadcast today.
Yeah. Stay tuned, you guys. And thanks so much for sharing your tweets and selfies yesterday. That was really helpful and energetic for us during an 8.5-hour show yesterday. We're going to head down to Dubai. It was a long day for our people on ground as well. Tanya is our reporter closest to the players at all times. And of course, there's so many interesting people down at the World Championship match.
We're inside the playing hall, and I'm still reeling from the excitement of the game that we witnessed yesterday. Perhaps the most iconic game in the history of World Championship matches. And as the match is heating up, more and more top grandmasters from the world are here in Dubai. And with me, I've got Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. He's joining us. Maxime, welcome to Dubai. How are you feeling?
Hi, Tanya. All good? I mean, it was pretty exciting yesterday, except for the fact that I was on duty commentating it for 8 hours. And then it was not that pleasant from the commentator side, but from a spectator side, it definitely was iconic. And if it turns out to be the decisive win for Magnus to win it, it's for sure will go down in memories.
Very long game, a tough battle, tremendous fight, Maxime. As a top grandmaster yourself, what impressed you the most about the game?
There were two things that impressed me a lot. First of all, Jan impressed me with his approach. Up until the first time control, he was really trying it hard to make things up. He had a couple of opportunities to bail out, and I'm sure he saw them. But he, kept it a fight, didn't exchange queens, and gave up his 2 rooks for a queen and tried to put pressure on Magnus, on the clock, and this strategy almost succeeded. And then, of course, Magnus impressed me a lot. Finding out every chance in the position, preventing the position from getting dry, and then the actual conversion once he got a winning position. So that was tremendous.
We were all quite impressed with the way Jan handled the opening surprise by Magnus. Also, as you mentioned, great defense. But this is exactly what makes the game so iconic, just the kind of resistance that Jan showed.
Of course, and it's not only that Jan showed resistance, it's that he showed his willingness to fight it out and to, put pressure on Magnus, at the cost of taking some risks. So yesterday it turned out not to be justified, but this is the kind of approach he needs anyway to win the championship. So, and to make a comeback. So, good luck to him for doing that. It's not gonna be easy for sure, but at least we know he'll try. But of course, yesterday's game was great because, like you said, there were not that many mistakes. There were, but it's also due to the complexity of the position. So mistakes are bound to happen in this situation. So in general, I think both players played at extremely high level.
Maxime, now you were speaking of Jan having to make a comeback. So far in the match, we've been seeing a sort of Jan who's been taking restrained risk, especially in the anti-martial that he had previously, where he had the move c4. The kind of choices he's making, definitely trying to make the most of it, but in a restrained manner. Is it time for Jan, now that he's trailing the match, to come out all guns blazing, the Jan as we know it?
For sure, but we saw this kind of Jan yesterday. Like I said, he took really much more risks than in those anti-martials. At the same time, it can also happen that he scores a point in this white game. So he had some opportunities to create tremendous pressure on Magnus that he missed. So for sure he doesn't have the opportunity to miss any of these chances anymore. But I don't know what to expect today. Maybe it's going to be another anti-martial because he's been getting something out of these positions. It's not. But it's very difficult at the same time to beat Magnus there.
Very difficult. Well, Jan does start with the white pieces today. Are you expecting another anti-martial or a mix-up earlier on?
I actually don't know what to expect. So, had he not lost yesterday, I think he would have stuck to his strategy for sure. Maybe I'll stick to it once more. But at some point, he'll probably need to mix things up for sure.
All right, and finally, Maxime, I have to ask you about Ali Reza. He is the world #2. He won the Grand Swiss. He's qualified for the next candidates, and now he's your teammate as well. You had a brilliant performance with him at the European Team Championship. Tell us, what do you think is the potential of him being a future challenger?
For sure, Ali Reza has chances and will have many chances in the future. He's so young. He's achieved already a lot. He qualified for the candidates and he'll definitely be fighting it out. Now for these candidates, I'm also going to try to qualify, and if I manage, I'm also going to try to win it. But of course, I'm very happy he got French citizenship and now he's our teammate. So really going to be something special when I play with him in the next Olympiad, hopefully.
Thank you so much for joining us, Maxime. Grandmaster Maxime Vachier-Lagrave with his take on the World Championship match and all the excitement that's coming up in Game 7. Back to you guys.
Thanks so much, Tanya. Impressively fresh. It was late in Dubai when Game 6 ended yesterday. Interesting to hear from world #12 Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, who came quite close to qualifying for this match. Eventually, Nepomniachtchi won the candidates. And predictions now, you guys, for Game 7. We are doing the prediction challenge. Have you joined it now, Jon Christian?
I have not, but maybe I will do it.
It's never too late.
But it's really hard to predict today's game, I think. It's very tough to say if Jan is going to play for the win, or if he's going to over-push and Magnus suddenly wins, or if both players are happy with the draw after yesterday's marathon game. So yeah, maybe a draw, I would say, if I were to predict.
Yeah, I agree. It's, you know, anything can happen today. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I mean, you could make arguments for all three results, and you could see, I mean, roller coaster games again. You could see maybe just a smooth, calm draw. I changed my mind. I was going to say a Magnus win. I just have a feeling Nepomniachtchi, historically, he overpresses a lot. He's not good at bouncing back necessarily compared to Magnus, but yeah, I changed my mind. I'm going to say draw.
You're going to say draw.
Same opening, Roy Lopez. I don't think he'll change his match strategy because he hasn't had too much time to prepare for white. He's got 2 black games in this little segment. So, yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. And we do have, we're going to show you now the standings for us in the studio and worldwide in the Magnus Nepo Prediction Challenge. David, you are doing extremely well. So this is us. Worldwide, we have Evie on top of the world, 64 points, amazing score. And David, you're doing best of us in 14th place worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I got there. A lot of luck, a lot of lucky guesses, but also I missed a round, so I'm a bit gutted. If I had that one extra round, that one extra prediction, maybe I could catch up with Evie. But either way, it's fun taking part in this, and it's fun getting in the mindset of the players. Remember, they are also trying to predict the openings and stuff like that. So, yeah, join us in these prediction challenges.
Definitely. And myself and Simon were quite low on the world rankings, but Jovanka top 100. And have you made some predictions today that could get you even higher on the scoreboard?
I snuck in. I have a very similar prediction to David, actually. I'm predicting that the game will end in a draw, and I'm also predicting that the Roy Lopez will feature. We actually have it, we put it up on the board over here. And draw in 45 moves.
Draw in 45 moves.
You don't think it will be 136 moves again, Jovanka?
Wow.
If it's going to be, it should be 137, so they at least set a new world record.
We'll have to raise another toast to that if it does happen.
Well, Game 7, it starts in 13 minutes, you guys. We're going to have a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with some more build-up to Game 7.
Today, more than ever, when the world comes together to create a better tomorrow.
It's going to be magic.
La magie. Magic. Magic with music.
With architecture.
With colors.
Magic with celebration.
With your safety.
From here.
There.
And everywhere.
For 6 whole months, day and night.
Join the making of a new world, starting October 1st.
Welcome to the new Chess24 playing experience. Play in light mode or dark mode. Choose from a range of time controls or create a custom game and get paired with players from around the world fast. Enjoy a polished playing experience while making moves on a fresh, responsive board to claim your victories. Train and improve with over 80,000 puzzles. And that's not all. Download now and discover what more you can enjoy in our brand new app.
Nepomniachtchi arriving for Game 7. I must say, he's looking fresh and energetic. He's gonna need it. And the big question is, of course, will he go for an immediate comeback? A win today with the white pieces? Or will he be happy with a solid situation and go for a draw? Or will he overpush and give chances for a second win to Magnus Carlsen? The world champion is leading by 1 point after 6 games in Dubai. Game 6, it wasn't only a win for Magnus Carlsen, it also gave us a new world record in World Championship history. The longest game ever played. It lasted 136 moves, 7 hours and 45 minutes, and it broke the previous world record that has been standing for 43 years. And at the press conference after playing this incredibly long game, Magnus Carlsen impressed us again with his memory.
Were you aware of the fact that this is the longest World Championship game in history? And how do you feel at this moment, breaking through, winning this game after not having won a game in over 5 years?
Yeah, I think I had the previous record as well, probably, against Anand, although that wasn't nearly as many hours. And
actually, it was Korchnoi Karpov.
It was Korchnoi Karpov still. Yeah, the one where he tried to win with the bishop and wrong pawn. Is that correct? Yeah.
I mean, almost 8 hours by the chessboard. And he remembers a position in a game from 1978.
Yeah, that's what makes him so unique. That memory, I mean, it's just out of this world. Some top grandmasters, they've studied chess history in detail, but I doubt many would have been able to name that exact game. And as Magnus says, he also played a long one against Anand, 122 moves. But to recall that game from 43 years ago, yeah, just super impressive after such a long game.
When hanging out with him, Jon Christian, does he impress with his memory, obviously in chess, but in other aspects of life as well?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes and no, I would say. I mean, he knows a lot of stuff, I would say. He knows his stuff, yeah. I've been at quiz with him a couple of times, and he knows the most strange thing. A lot of, like, music from like the 50s and 60s and
useful knowledge.
Yeah, very useful knowledge, and also very good at geography. He knows a lot of places and names and cities and stuff like this. And yeah, sometimes he just impresses with some random fun facts.
Yeah, well, his memory is definitely one of the biggest reasons Magnus Carlsen is known to be maybe one of the greatest players in the history of chess. A few months ago, David decided to test his memory, and this one will blow your mind.
I'm now going to be showing Magnus some historical chess positions. Let's see if he recognizes them. This position, I bet it looks familiar.
Yeah, this looks an awful lot like Tal Botvinnik. I think the continuation here was probably Queen D5 and then Rook A6 and Tal 1.
Yes. Whoops.
Okay, this is the 24th game from Seville, obviously.
You got that right. Should I go on to the next one?
I was literally reading about this. Like, this is the book that is on my bedside table about the Kasparov-Karpov matches.
Does this ring any bells?
Yeah, this is the old mate in one that Chucky missed. So this is Anand Ivanchuk from one of the Intel Rapid tournaments, probably from like 95 or something.
94, I think. But
94, yeah.
Yeah, you're completely correct. Now I'm going to play through an opening and stop me when you recognize the game, and if you can tell me who was playing black in this one.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So I'm sure you've seen this opening before.
Okay, it's going to be Anand.
Against?
Zapata.
What year?
87, 88, maybe?
88, yeah.
Yeah.
I know what this is.
Okay, good one. So this is like top 3 worst chess memories that I have. This is the game Carlsen Howell from World Youth Championship 2002. I needed to win the last game. I was half a point in front of Nepomniachtchi. The most annoying part I remember about that last round is that Nepomniachtchi, who was playing against an Indonesian player, Susiludinata. I think he played a Caro-Kann as black. He had an extra pawn and a great position, and then he just collapsed. And I was losing my advantage as well, and I just remember just raging like crazy.
I could
but
tell, yeah.
Obviously it got David a bronze medal, so that's the good part.
It's all downhill from there. Wow, 19 years ago, and you still remember the game next to you.
I mean, this could have been some bullet game or I played or something.
That's a good guess. That's a good guess.
I'm probably gonna need a hint.
Okay, it's from the entertainment industry.
It's okay. So black is down a queen. So from the first Harry Potter movie, they played the Scandinavian, and then they went knight c3, queen c6. So is it from that one?
Well done.
Thank you. Okay.
That's impressive.
Needed some serious hints, but...
Yeah, but it still could have been anything after the entertainment industry.
Good one, though. Good one.
This is simply incredible. I mean, you mentioned it there even, David, in games from 20 years ago. He remembers the board next to him. How is it possible?
I mean, we wouldn't think it's humanly possible normally, but yeah, it's just impressive. I mean, when we're children, somehow we normally focus on our own games and we have tunnel vision, kind of, and even then the memories tend to be quite vague, but he remembers everything so vividly, and that's, I guess, maybe what separates him from the rest. Impressive stuff.
David, on what square was Magnus's king when the game ended yesterday?
H4.
Yes. Wow. Okay. Can I test you in earlier moves?
Sure, go for it.
When should we do?
That's a lot of moves, Kaja.
It was, yeah, so I'm clicking back here. I know I can, okay. How about move 40? What was Magnus's move? Is that?
We thought knight takes e4. Knight takes, yeah.
Knight takes e4, and black play queen b3.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is a chess player thing. It is a chess player thing, but still.
I mean, if you tested me on a game from 20 years ago, like we were doing with Magnus, then maybe I'd be a bit fuzzy on the details. But yeah, either way, memory is important in chess. It's not essential, but it definitely helps a little bit.
All right. Well, many may be wondering where Ginger GM Simon Williams is today. We sent him back to his favorite pub, the Good Night. I bet the mood is going to be good there today, Simon, after Magnus winning yesterday.
Yeah, it's great to be back in my natural habitat. I feel like a lion about to get the gazelle. Very happy. I'm down the Goodnight pub in Oslo, just where I think you were filming. And it's kind of warming up a little bit here. I'm ready for a very exciting game. I've actually gone a little bit controversial. I'm going for a Jan win. So, you know, don't kill me, but I've got to get some points back on you guys. And I thought we'd just have a little walk around, just so we can show you some people and what's going on here. So let's get up and have a little wander. So I've got my own little room here, very nice, and we'll walk through. We've already got people drinking beer and playing blitz chess, which is cool. So look at that, they've already started early. Anyone in the studio jealous there? You can see lots of games going on, and everyone clearly enjoying themselves, and lots of good moves being played, beer being drunk. And we'll walk around. What's going on? We have Norwegian number 2, Arjan Tari, and he's going to be in this room here. You can see through the window, and he's going to be commentating on the game. We're going to get him on the camera, on the TV later on, and the bar is picking up slowly at the moment, and the barman are doing a great job. So we just walk around here to this side and say hello to everyone. But there's loads of room here, so if you are in Oslo, what is a better place than here to watch the chess and to drink a beer or two, or a coffee if you want to. I don't know what you want to drink in the studio. Are you on coffee today? Because I might make you a little bit jealous by getting my first beer, I don't know, in about 5 minutes or so, who knows. But it's going to be an exciting game, and we're going to, get back to you in the studio now, I think.
Thanks so much, Simon, and enjoy yourself today. We're looking forward to checking back in when you're already doing your first beer. Players have arrived for Game 7, Jan Nepomniachtchi, with the white pieces. Both players looking sharp and ready today. Would it be hard to sleep after Game 6 yesterday, do you think, Christian, for both of them? Or easy, because it was such a long, exhausting game?
No, I think it might be actually a bit hard, because even though you're very tired, you're also very exhausted, and that's also something about the game itself, grinding inside your head, thinking about what, at least Nepomniachtchi, thinking about what he did wrong or something like this, and Magnus probably very, very happy, but adrenaline and everything in his body. I hope both have had a good night of sleep, because that's vital to play good chess. And yeah, I'm really excited for this game in the match situation, to be honest.
Yeah, we should also remember they finished after midnight in Dubai.
That's true.
The previous game, so it would have been very, very late for them by the time they got back to the hotels.
Someone congratulating Magnus on winning a game that lasted 2 days, because it finished after midnight. Jan Nepomniachtchi, will he retreat the move? No.
No. Okay, it is a King's Pawn opening. Not a huge surprise to anyone here, because he has played this 3 times previously with the white in the match. He'll bring his knight out now to attack that central pawn. Will we see another Spanish, another Roy Lopez? Jan Nepomniachtchi has employed the Roy Lopez 3 times already. Every single time he's had white, he has brought the white light squared bishop out now, and he does it again. Putting pressure on the black knight. I think we've got our correct prediction on the board, Jovanka.
We do have and we've even predicted that Magnus would stay faithful to his previous outings and kick back the bishop.
Yep, so no Berlin defense, just a mainline Spanish, mainline Roy Lopez. And this is actually the exact position we've got here in the studio on the board in front of us. So we did predict correctly, Jovanka, but I'm not sure we deserve too much credit. They have debated this position a few times previously, and every time in the past, Magnus has brought his bishop out 1 square. He does so again. Neither player backing down so far. No surprises yet. The rook comes across to defend white's central pawn. Black will now push a pawn to kick away white's light squared bishop. There we go. Magnus pushes that pawn forward. The bishop retreats to its only safe square, and Magnus now will castle the black king. Okay, nothing new under the sun so far. And it is another anti-marshal, as we call it, avoiding the marshal gambit, which is a very historic opening. Jan Nepomniachtchi now does not give black the time to counter in the centre, because he just pushes his pawn, and Magnus continuing with this rook move. He played this previously in Game 5, actually, just before the rest day, and he got in a little bit of trouble, Carlsen. So, are you surprised here, Jan Christian?
Yeah, I was about to ask you, because the main move in that position and what he played in the first game was what was bishop b7, right?
Yeah, bishop b7 and b4 was also a move pushing the black pawn, but this black rook move abandons the open A file, which white has full control over.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, he got in some. I'm not sure if I'm going to say major or minor trouble, but either way, he got in trouble in the last game he played this opening. But I suspect he has done his homework and has something better up his sleeve at this game than what he did previous. So I'm interested to see where they will deviate from the 5th game.
Yeah, and so far, if my memory serves correctly, which I'm starting to doubt now, but if my memory does serve correctly, we've had this position before. We've seen this exact position on the board in Game 5.
Almost.
Almost.
Almost,
this last
David.
pawn push.
This last pawn push.
Okay, this last pawn push was different.
Yes, but it could transpose. It certainly could transpose to the game, because that game continued with white actually putting his pawns on c3 and d3. And here we have the very first surprise of the game. Surprise? I don't think. Well,
nothing shocking, but
no.
Slightly different. A different move order, at the very least, from Nepomniachtchi. Maybe just trying to throw Carlsen off. Both players, after Game 5, they had that rest day. They will have been doing their homework. They would have been studying this position with their teams, with their coaches. And who will have come to the better conclusions? That is the question.
So is this Jan being solid in known territory, or is this team, Nepo, they know they have something in this opening that they can surprise Magnus with?
I think it's just a sensible decision. I mean, it's a bit stubborn in a way, just kind of insisting on the same opening every game, every time with white. But it is solid for white. No real risk. White can put pressure on. We saw in game 5, Magnus was struggling throughout the whole game, eventually managed to hold a draw, but white always had a small advantage. So I think maybe after the chaos of yesterday, just going for this calm approach makes a lot of sense.
Some very interesting reactions going on here between the players.
Are they looking at each other?
Yeah. First of all, Magnus now has stopped or paused after what seems to be a small deviation from game 5. So he's probably trying to figure out if this is makes any difference from playing c3 first. And also, I noticed that Nepomniachtchi, he started looking at Magnus, sending him some eye contact and sort of asking, what are you doing? Why are you pausing? Don't you know this? So I'm not sure if this is if Magnus is actually shocked by this or surprised in any ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting, actually, the mind games having already started, because for sure Magnus should have predicted this move. It's so natural. It's one of the main moves, and he could correctly have guessed, I think, that Nepomniachtchi would just insist on this opening. So, yeah, very surprising to see Magnus pause. Only 3 minutes so far he's been thinking, but if he continues thinking, maybe it's going to be a bad sign for him.
It might be a bit of a double bluff by Magnus, because Magnus, in repeating that rook move from game 5, which didn't result in a great position, maybe he thought, well, Nepomniachtchi is guessing he'd never do that again and will vary. And Magnus is saying, nope, going to do this. But of course, it is to be expected in a World Championship match that both sides work hard on every single possibility. And we have a move from Magnus, who just picks up his h-pawn and moves it to 1 square. So very similar strategy to the game 5, where Black adopted this kind of approach, covering the g5 square, preventing a knight from jumping out, maybe even a bishop. And also, what kind of plans does Black have? Because the main move I saw is not that pawn push, but it's actually to challenge the light squared bishops.
Yeah, so Black maybe just keeping that up his sleeve to bring the black bishop out to the e6 square and offer that trade. Maybe he just doesn't want to rush, doesn't want to commit. As you mentioned, Jovanka, if that's the main move, then for sure Nepomniachtchi has studied it. And Magnus's approach throughout this World Championship so far has not been to play the main move. It's to play sidelines, or maybe the 3rd or 4th most popular moves, just so it's harder for Nepomniachtchi to go deep and to study those variations.
Will this be a transposition if Nepo now plays c3 to game 5, or?
Yeah, if he pushes the c-pawn, it looks like we might well head back towards what we did have in that game.
Yeah, okay.
Black might push the b-pawn there, and it's still not exact, but quite likely that we'll head to something very similar to what we've seen already.
We see it's calming down in the fish tank. I have to say, as a journalist, I feel very sorry for the photographers there, because usually at a over-the-board tournament, you only get like 5 to 10 minutes inside the playing venue to take photos of the players, and Jan keeps leaving immediately, so they're getting very few photos of Jan Nepomniachtchi by the board.
Yeah, actually, I'm hoping eventually in the press conference that they do ask the players what they're doing back there, whether they are snacking, whether they just have kind of a chair they can lie on. Yeah, it's really mysterious, because Jan disappears nearly every move.
Yeah, I was kind of curious yesterday, what did they actually eat for 7 hours and 45 minutes?
You weren't the only one. Lars Valentin on Twitter asked the same question. Did the players not get dinner during a long game like yesterday, or do they have to settle for snacks and fruits? That is quite a pertinent question.
Yeah.
My answer is I don't actually know. I would assume snacks.
Yep, I know Magnus often requests fruit during games, but yeah, we'll have to ask the players to find out the truth. Meanwhile, there has been a move, and this game is on new territory now, because the white knight has developed to the c3 square. We were expecting maybe the white pawn to push there. That was the strategy Nepomniachtchi previously adopted, but no, the knight comes out. So controlling the centre, very sensible. And will Magnus have correctly guessed that Nepomniachtchi would choose this move? I think it would have been high on his radar. Very logical play by both sides so far.
But it is Magnus Carlsen, the first player in this game, to think and take a few minutes to think, of course, Judith Polgar as well commented on the long game yesterday for Chess24 Deep Dive, and Rune checked in with her before this game started.
Yesterday we saw a historical chess game and also maybe one of the most important chess games in classical chess in recent history. Here with us we have chess legend Judith Polgar to shed some insights on what happened in that game. Can you give us your impressions?
Well, first of all, I can say that it was amazing, apart from the fact that it was the longest ever World Championship match game, which lasted 136 moves, and the length of it, not only in numbers, but also in hours, it was very long. Players were playing 7 hours and 40 minutes, which means it's extremely tiring for the players. To start with, they are extremely tense, because it's the World Championship title they are playing, right? And it was game 6. It was seen for me from the very beginning for Magnus, the way he came, he sat down at the board, he was ready for a long fight. Nobody thought such a long fight, though. And it was clear that Magnus was ready to play until the very end. But also there were very significant signs how Jan was playing. He also made move 11. He made a very active move. Also in move later on in move 17, I think, when he captured with the pawn, he ruined his king structure. So there were signs that Jan is also ready to make little risky moves in order to somehow balance Magnus and maybe to potentially even have opportunity to win. But of course it's not that easy, and the game was going up and down. More or less the whole game was pretty much equal or balanced out. But still, Magnus was playing some very nice moves. For example, move 30 when he pushed his pawn h4 and then he made a very quiet king move. That was also something I felt that he has the patience for the game. He has the perseverance. He wants to give the opportunity for his opponent to make a mistake. I was kind of sorry for the players that they had to go and give a press conference, because for Magnus, of course, you have to see that both players were exhausted. But when you win a game and you're exhausted, after the game you're just happy. We could see Magnus having a baby smile on his face. He was like in heaven. He took the lead in the match. At the same time, when you look at Jan, I retired from competitive chess 7 years ago, but I still know the feeling how frustrating it is to lose such a game, especially that in this game, many parts of the game, it was known that we are playing for 2 results. So it's either going to be a draw, saving by Jan, or Magnus will be winning. So this is the most unpleasant way to play a game and lose after such a long way. The secret for Magnus, I think, was, and he does it many times, that he's trying to play in a way that his opponent has to make different decisions.
Legendary Judith Polgar. Talking about the historical game yesterday, it was a dramatic game leading up to move 40. Wow, time scramble and both players in winning and losing positions. Much calmer start today. And I guess the start to the game yesterday as well was a little bit more dramatic than the start to this game.
Yeah, I guess with the white pieces, Magnus just had a really brand new strategy, actually, of just surprising as early as possible. And already at move 3, Nepomniachtchi was uncertain what to do. And this one's very different, of course. We're at move 12. I wouldn't be surprised if Jan is prepared up to move 20. We've seen that a few times in his white games. So that's why just having the difference of colours is so important. With white, you can choose your strategy. You can surprise the opponent first. And it looks like Magnus has been surprised first. Jovanka, in the break there, oh, not in the break, but while Judith was talking, you mentioned to me that this position has been seen before.
It has been seen before. Not too many games, I have to say, but the main plan of white developing the knight to the c3 square is actually to take that knight and put it into the centre and put it onto the d5 square. And there's been just 3 games, and it seems to be quite level. You know, white has won a game, black has won a game, and then following that, a draw. So it seems quite balanced.
So this is the first surprise of this game, and only 3 times this position's ever been reached. Wow. Mm-hmm. That's surprising to me, because both sides have played really sensibly. And here we're expecting which move from black? Probably just to move this rook across.
That's right.
Something that Magnus has done before in similar positions. We should mention that this other plan of trying to exchange these light squared bishops is less effective now for black, because the white knight does indeed jump into the centre and it cannot really be captured. You don't want to part with your very important light squared bishop, and if you take with a knight, of course, there's this double attack. So it's really frustrating here that Magnus can't get these bishops off the board. Or at least it's not really in a favourable situation. So if the rook does come across, the knight, if it jumps in, then I guess this knight will be ignored. If you take it, then you do risk this knight being in a bit of trouble. For example, if white takes with the pawn, this knight only has one safe square in the centre, but then there'll be lots of exchanges, and it just feels to me with the rook on this open line that white will have an advantage later in the game. So, OK, this rook move, if it happens, if the white knight jumps in, then I think black will just ignore this. And Jovanka, you mentioned that maybe just the bishop moves.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which direction, but black will just develop. White will slowly build up as well, maybe pushing the pawn, bring the bishop out, and we'll just see things slowly unfold. No fireworks yet, but warming up.
Yeah, definitely warming up. And white has very natural play. And I must say, at first I was a bit sceptical about this idea of just putting that knight on the d5 square. I felt it was too direct, maybe a bit too simple, and that Magnus maybe should be able to handle this kind of knight move by just playing around it. I think, like in the style of the former world champion Tigran Petrosian, you know, just let it live there. Just I can see some black games have continued with the bishop moving to the f8 square, and then the light squared bishop gets developed, and then eventually, at some point, the knight captures the knight.
I don't know about you, but I'm slightly surprised by this opening for Magnus, because after yesterday's win, I mean, the whole match situation has been turned upside down. Suddenly, there's no immediate need for Magnus to actually win any games. If he can just draw the rest of the games, he will continue to be world champion. And so my thought process was that he was maybe going to try and kill the game as early as possible and just force it into a draw. And I was really wondering why, or whether he would play the Berlin defense, which is sort of a very known draw weapon, but we haven't seen it so far in this match. Even though Nepomniachtchi has played e4 in all the games, or Rulopis rather. So I'm a bit surprised that Magnus continued playing this line, which put him into trouble last game.
Yeah. You're right, actually. It's slightly surprising because the Berlin, it makes sense. It's so solid anyway. You might as well flick it in once in one of the games, and you force Nepomniachtchi and his coaches to study, burn lots of time, burn hours and hours trying to find something against the Berlin. For sure, Nepomniachtchi would have an idea there that doesn't allow Magnus to just neutralise and draw immediately. But, I mean, if he continues suffering in these positions, even if it's just kind of small, tiny disadvantages every time, then it's not pleasant. And the Berlin defence as well. It's one of my favourites, so I'm biased, but I think it would be a sensible choice as a backup plan for Magnus.
Yesterday's game saw such a huge interest from not only the chess world, but just, everyone else just being super interested. It's a world record in the chess game. It's a super interesting chess game. And Magnus as well. We know he's very into popularising chess. So do you think that will also be in the back of his head, to maybe not play these very drawish positions?
Possibly, although I think his number one priority is definitely to win the match.
Yeah.
And you do that, of course, by any means necessary. Sometimes you just have to be ruthless, cold-blooded. I think especially if we rewind back in time to the final game of his match against Karyakin, where he just forced a draw with white very quickly. He didn't care about kind of putting anything on for the fans. He just forced a draw, headed straight to the tie-breaks where he knew he was the favourite. Also against Caruana in the final game in 2018, he just kind of offered a draw when he had a very healthy position, maybe even a better position, because he knew that tie-breaks would give him an advantage. So, of course, Magnus, I think more than most world champions in the past, he cares about the fans, he cares about popularising chess, but when it comes down to the moves, the games themselves, I think he'll find a way, even if it's not the most pretty way.
Basically do the smartest thing for him to give him the biggest chance to keep his title.
Yeah, play the odds.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's interesting now to see his approach because I mentioned one way of looking at the match situation where you try to just kill all the games pretty much and make them into draws. But this is I'm wondering if he's saying to Nepo that try and get me, come and get me, and when Nepo maybe overpushes sometimes, he's ready to strike, and then suddenly if you are +2 in the match, then everything seems really dark for Nepo. But I mean, +1, okay, that's one game, and you're back at equal score. But +2, that would be a lot. So Nepo still needs to be a bit careful. He can't overpress too much. But we'll see how this develops.
It's going to be absolutely fascinating because traditionally, I read all the commentaries on Nepomniachtchi, and they all say that his biggest weakness is that when he loses, he gets too emotional and he tilts and he perhaps takes too much risk in the position. And this could backfire, as both David and Jon have said. This could easily result in Nepomniachtchi losing the game, and +2. Well, for Magnus, that's going to be a disaster. So, I mean, I've seen some tweets saying that Nepomniachtchi should just play it safe, recover emotionally, and just get a position that is basically 2 results, we say in chess, which would be playing for a win or playing for a draw, very comfortable. And then he can just adapt to getting to the right mindset and just feeling the moment. I mean, thinking back to previous World Championship matches, I remember there was a game 2013 where Anand lost, and then Anand lost again. So there was that situation, and then in 2014 we had the reverse happen. Magnus won, and then Anand struck back. So I mean, there's definitely we do have a move. The rook has moved to the E8 square, which is just as we highlighted with David, getting ready maybe to tuck the bishop back to the F8 square.
Bless you.
Thank you.
So, just a very standard move for these types of positions. Nothing too surprising there. The only surprising thing for me is that the evaluation bar shifted over to white side. I think it will zoom back towards the centre in a moment. That's definitely not a mistake from Magnus, just a very standard, very sensible move. As Jovanka mentioned, dropping the black bishop back next to the king would be probably Magnus's next move if he got another opportunity, but either way, the black rook is now ready. If the position opens up, if white ever pushes a pawn in the centre, which he might be tempted to do to push the white d-pawn, if things open, if there are some trades, the black rook is better placed here than it previously was.
Yeah, the bar definitely woke up yesterday, finally, after 5 games in Dubai. So probably just stretching a little bit, getting ready for the game today.
What you mentioned, Jovanka, about Nepo maybe that he has gone on tilt earlier after losing a game, or something also mentioned by Magnus himself in a recent podcast that came out right before the World Championship match. And and Magnus specifically mentioned this situation that they are in, where he asked the question, okay, so if Nepo actually loses, what will happen? Will he be able to pick himself up and get back? Because he mentioned, Magnus mentioned that if it was him who would be in that position, if he lost, he's done that before, and he always strikes back. So he's used to that. But he was wondering if Nepo could do the same, and I guess we will see today if he will be able to not go on tilt and play proper chess and get the results.
I know, Arian Tari, that is down at the Good Night with Simon today. He mentioned, because he won his game against Jan in Norway Chess a couple months ago, and that was the day or 2 days after Jan had lost another game. So Arian said, knowing Jan, he took advantage of it. He knew he could push in that game because it would be a little bit typical Jan to tilt, I guess is the word. But do you think Jan has brought some mental coaches maybe to help him in that situation, which of course is likely against the world champion?
Probably should. I don't know he has mental coaches specifically, but at least the seconds should discuss the match situation and how to continue, how to think. I noticed at the press conference yesterday after the game, I think Nepo was well behaved there, or it didn't seem like he took it too hard, but he also seemed a bit apathic when he said something like life goes on, and he tried not to focus so much on the chess, but obviously he should focus on the chess, but when playing a chess game, the most important thing is obviously just to find good moves and not think too much about the match situation either.
Yeah.
So.
That's the thing. I mean, these players, they've been preparing for months, of course. Jan, especially, he's been kind of hiding away for months preparing. I wouldn't be surprised if, like you say, that kind of life goes on mantra that was kind of told to him by a sports psychologist. Or, I mean, these players, I know Magnus in the past, he's had nutritionists, fitness coaches, he's brought his own chefs. Why not work on the mental side? And I know some top players, some really top players nowadays who do talk to sports psychologists on a regular basis, and they say it helps. So
yeah.
I think that would have been a good idea from Jan. Maybe we'll find out at some point whether he has been focusing on that side of things. But for him especially, even more than Magnus maybe, focusing on that psychological aspect.
Speaking of speaking of mental coaches, I know that Magnus, I don't think he uses a mental coach.
I think I heard him say that he actually almost makes a point out of not using a mental coach. He wants the normality around it. His father, his friends, his, Peter Heine, the normal people. That has been the solution for him to stay sane when it's a lot of drama.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the saying is in English, but in Norwegian we have something like "don't mess up a winning recipe" or something. I think that's his what he thinks about, at least.
Yeah. But of course he has the knowledge. He's been in this situation before. Obviously, Nepomniachtchi has never played a match before, and that experience must also be crucial.
Yeah, exactly. And Jan will know that, okay, he has this in experience, but he will also have studied his own games, the patterns. You mentioned Norway chess, where after a promising start, he kind of lost control and never recovered. And towards the end of the event, he was clearly visibly unhappy. And his coaching team, they would have said to him, okay, statistically, you don't do so well after a loss. So you need to focus on that area of the game. You need to focus on your mentality, your mindset, approaching these kind of post-loss defeats and post-loss matches. So, Jan, he looks focused. I think I like his opening choice too. We will find out. Okay, I like his man bun equally. We will find out, how stable he's feeling today after yesterday's marathon game.
Well, we did mention that maybe later in the show we're going to take the moustache and we have a move, but maybe we also have a bet for you, David, to go that man bun.
Oh, Simon used to have a man bun, Ginger GM. I'm not sure I could, though. It would take months. It would take years. I mean, what do I do with the fringe in the meantime? I don't understand. But, OK, meanwhile, a move from Jan and making some faces, just kind of maybe showing that he's in his preparation, maybe surprised by Magnus's choice, maybe just Jan being Jan, making faces. Either way, it's the move Jovanka mentioned that has been played before. A bit hasty, offering this trade of knights, but probably Magnus shouldn't touch these knights yet.
Oh.
He should allow the trade, but on his own terms. If the black knight captures the white knight in the centre, then white gains a bit of time. White can actually choose between taking back with the pawn in the middle or the bishop. And black's remaining knight after this knight trade might risk getting trapped. So Jovanka mentioned the move, just the black bishop retreating, the black dark square bishop back to the f8 square next to the black king. To me, that looks extremely sensible. Why rush with the trade? No immediate urgency there.
And leading up to Christmas, Chessable has an advent calendar. You can check for daily 60% off sales on the link in the bottom of the screen. And since it is December, we are talking about the moustache today. The moustache has to go because it was supposed to go on December 1st, right?
Yeah.
But you kept it for our sake, coming back to the show.
I was pressured into keeping it, so yeah.
We're doing you a favour today, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Live later in the show, you guys. We're gonna We're going to shave off the moustache, and it might be me who have to do it, and I haven't done it before. So if you have any tips on social media, how do we shave off that moustache? Sorry, young Christian.
But I do have to share with you a little picture from Pudding Shack on Twitter, who says it doesn't get more #Movember than this, and also congratulates you, young Christian, on your all-time high 2600 blitz record.
Thank you.
There you can see the picture. There's good old Freddie and I've forgotten his name.
Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck, yes.
Magnum PI.
And Borat.
Yeah.
And now young Christian Hart.
Yeah, allegedly, or apparently, I'm turning into a meme. I think. We'll make do.
What does the meme say?
Come again?
What does the meme say? Many different things, maybe?
Yeah, I'm just being a meme by being the mustache man, apparently.
Yeah, that is... yeah, young Christian sums it up correctly. Yeah, sorry.
And meanwhile, one player who hasn't shaved is Magnus Carlsen. Probably hasn't shaved for a while now, and he's still thinking. What could he be considering? I don't think any problems here for Black. I don't envisage anything too drastic happening or anything too wrong that could occur for Magnus's part, but maybe he just wants to ensure that he's accurate to the end. And maybe psychologically as well, it's difficult when Jan is basically blitzing all the moves still. The only time that Jan has spent now on his clock, 10 minutes, that's been pretty much away from the board. So.
Yeah, I was about to ask that because I saw that last move, he spent 5 minutes, but that was 5 minutes of being in the, not being at the table, and then when arriving, he just made the move instantly and then left the board once more. But do you know if they have a screen or anything where they can check the game in the back room, or if they have to physically go into the playing area to see the game?
Yeah, I assume they have a screen.
I think actually I remember the first day Tanya took us on a tour around the whole venue, and she went into the lounges, I think, and we did see screens there. So they will see as soon as a move happens.
So maybe he's studying the board from that screen rather than coming back and...
yeah. And this gives him the chance to kind of calm himself down, pace, talk aloud, because obviously while you're in the playing venue, you're not allowed to do those things. You're not allowed to sit there going, come on, you can do this, no self-talk whatsoever. But, yeah, I mean, it's unusual, right? I've never really seen a World Championship match where one player just quickly makes a beeline for the spare player's room and...
It happened. I recollect one time, and I think that turned into a concept called toilet gate or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened in 2007, I want to say, or 2006, between
Topalov and Kramnik.
Yeah. And Kramnik kept leaving the board, and Topalov said this is unusual behaviour, and he accused Kramnik of cheating.
Accused him of having some help in the toilet,
some computer assistance, because what could he be doing? But it was a very scandalous thing. Yeah. And okay, so we
personally, I'd be terrified going to the restroom. I'd be scared I'd fall asleep, have an accidental nap, and not come back. Maybe that's what Nepo is doing too. But the move we predicted on the board, Black's bishop slides back to the f8 square, just very safe, very solid.
But doesn't he want to use this bishop in attack? What is the bishop doing back there?
Yeah, bishops, the good thing is they're long-range pieces, so even on their starting squares, where the bishop's gone back to now, they do control some squares later, and often White wants to build up maybe a small mini attack against the black king, and that black bishop will act as a defender. Note how also the black queen now has been opened up, so if White's knight in the centre goes and captures the black knight, the black queen can recapture, and the black queen gets active. So I think just trying to open up the black queen, the black rook on e8 as well, now slightly happier. This is just a very standard manoeuvre for black in these positions.
I think it's a very unusual beginner move.
Yeah,
to me, that would be very unnatural to move.
Retreating is always unnatural.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. But it's also the same kind of like idea of mysterious rook move. Whenever I'm teaching chess, I get a lot of questions. Why have you put your rook behind your own pawn? Especially when you're the one that kind of shouts from the rooftops, put the rooks on open lines. And I say, well, it's actually in preparation of the position opening up. And it's just simply considering what your opponent wants to do, because you have to remember the position is really locked. And just think of it as if you're on battle siege. You know, you have this kind of gridlock, and the whole position and the whole kind of strategy of the war is all about opening that line. And so you have to get ready for those infiltration of forces.
Yeah.
And
will we see infiltration of forces in this position? We're going to head back to the playing venue and Tanya with a very interesting guest right now, the father of the world champion.
Oh, okay. No, I think it'll be shorter.
Can you hear us, Tanya?
Yes, I can hear you guys. Well, I am in the Chess 24 lounge now. We had a historic game 6. Definitely one for the history books. What a game that was. A big moment for Team Magnus, for his family and friends. And to take us through that, I've got with me Henrik. Henrik, how are you doing today?
Well, I think we're all a bit exhausted after yesterday, but I don't think I've seen Magnus as elated after a chess game as yesterday in many, many years, basically. You know, he hasn't won a World Championship classical game in more than 5 years. So he was. I hope he could sleep last night.
And you mentioned that it's very difficult after such a game, even though the result goes your way, to actually get good sleep because of the adrenaline.
Yeah, of course, because that takes time to calm down. I don't want to be naughty, but hopefully Nepomniachtchi hasn't slept any more than Magnus.
All right, Henrik, you were here in the lounge when that moment happened, a big game. Over 7 hours of play. What was the first feeling for you? Joy, relief?
Well, we've had so much progress and success in a way that it felt a bit unreal. Okay, again, kind of. Of course, it's a great relief. We're all very happy, but it's kind of, I mean, it's too good to be true, but well, no, he won. Thank you. Yes.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, a classical win in the World Championship match, of course, it means a lot. What was it like when you got back to the hotel? Because it was way past midnight. How was the mood and the environment then? Did Magnus discuss more chess? Was there more talk about the game? What was the feeling like at that moment when you all went back to your space?
Well, we ordered some room service for Magnus and Peter and Magnus Barstad in particular. And I think everything is basically easy after such a game. I mean, whatever you talk about, it's just this high-level emotional experience of being together and having achieved something very special. Well, frankly, they talked about fantasy football.
All right, and we did have this very special video of Magnus with his friend Magnus Barstad on their way to the press conference. Let's take a look at that.
Ja. Hvordan var det, Max? Er du sliten? Har vi tatt en time til? Så lenge jeg vinner, så.
And Henrik, Magnus mentioned in this video that he could play on for another hour as long as he won the game. Has he always had this kind of unlimited energy for chess?
Well, I think he discovered that he could do something that he did very often, like 5 or 10 years ago, but which has become harder and harder with age, basically, to look for any opportunity to continue to press. And he managed to do that, be very, very patient. So clearly his mindset for the World Championship match is very special, even compared to other important tournaments. And of course, if he thought he could win, he would go all night. But of course, they now played 3 games in a row, so it might also have consequences for both of them. So I think one concern, but also very interesting for the spectators, is that probably the variance in the games in terms of result is likely to increase. So it's more likely now to have a result in game 7 or 8 than it would have been with the draw yesterday, I think.
So are you expecting a more a sharper fight now going into the next couple of games?
Well, how it will appear on the board, I'm not trying to predict basically, but the emotions of the players and the match situation will basically bring more tension and a feeling of higher stakes for both players probably, and that is likely to have some results also on the chessboard when it comes to objectivity, risk-taking, and these kind of things.
Yeah, 100% Jan is trailing in the match now, so we're all expecting more fireworks than we've seen. 8 big games still to go, Henrik. What is the mindset after this big win going into game 7? Was it calmer? Do you just keep that behind you and take today as a fresh game? Is Magnus, has he been able to leave that and then take this as a new game completely?
Yeah, I think he has a lot of experience from World Championship matches. So I think he has the right mindset. I mean, for my part, I would be happy with a short draw today.
All right, thank you, Henrik, for that. Thank you so much. Henrik Carlsen saying that, well, he will be happy with the short draw. It's been a long night yesterday, a long game. But Jan Nepomniachtchi does have the white pieces, and every white counts now that he's trailing the match behind a point. We'll see how the game progresses. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Tanya. Always interesting to hear from the always sensible Henrik Carlsen. It was fun to hear that in many years you haven't seen Magnus this sort of elated after a win. Was it kind of the old Magnus Carlsen we saw yesterday?
Yes. I mean, there was a period where Magnus became famously known for these games where he just keeps on pressing and pushes his opponents down in the end after. I mean, the position itself might be a draw, but he gets this sort of position where he can push and he manages to create mistakes in his opponent's play, and that was exactly what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, hour after hour, he just crunched Nepo, and I was sitting there watching yesterday, and I was thinking, oof, I'm not envying Nepo's situation, because if he does this tiny little mistake, then he's out. But he's being put on a test every move. So yeah, it was a typical Magnus win in that sense.
Yeah, it really reminds me of Magnus from maybe between 2009 and between 2013-14, where this was regular. I mean, you would see once every tournament, or maybe even twice every tournament, he would have these long games and he would somehow kind of get that water from a stone. But yeah, it's been few and far between. Maybe the last few years, the world champion, it's been up and downs. Often he prefers his shorter games. He adapted his style to be more direct. But maybe he's just going back to basics, back to what he knows best, Magnus. And sometimes that's what you need to do when things aren't necessarily going your way, or when it's a real struggle. You just need to go back to your basics. And
yeah, but I think it's better to play this way in a match situation where there's 1 against 1 compared to an open tournament, because this way of playing chess is really tiresome because it drains you of energy. But in this match situation, it also drains his opponent, Nepo, of energy, and that might also be part of his strategy, which he kind of mentioned in the press conference yesterday. So I think it could be a smart way to approach this.
Magnus even said it himself. You know, that was his plan. You know, just to keep torturing Nepomniachtchi until he makes a mistake. And yesterday he was granted a gift. You know, he was granted a gift, a position where Magnus was just in his element. This is what Magnus does best, you know, squeezing out those small advantages. But for me, the big focus is going to be on Nepomniachtchi and how he's going to recover from this, and also, you know, how is he going to approach this game and also this openings phase, because so far, you know, we've seen in games 4 and 5, he kind of got under Magnus's skin a little bit, you know, started to predict exactly what Magnus would play. And I do have a question from Anush Dole, who asks us, do you think Nepomniachtchi will stick to his match plan, which is the Rue Lopez, for the rest of the matches? Because he's just been getting slightly better positions with the anti-martial so far.
Yeah. I mean, just judging from some of the interviews we've had with Vladimir Potkin, Jan's main second, his main coach, I think he's going to be quite consistent with his plan with White. I just don't see him switching it up too much. If he suddenly plays a different move on move 1, for example, that would open up a whole new can of worms. It would mean a whole new bunch of openings to study. Maybe Magnus would neutralise him there anyway. So I think Jan will just continue being stubborn, sticking to the Rolo pairs and hoping that just once he can break down Magnus. It nearly happened maybe in a couple of occasions. Game 5 was the closest he's come. Of course, it was never more than slightly better, but I think psychologically as well, it's hard for Magnus to know every time he has black, he's going to be suffering. He's going to be grinding away just to try and save the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if Nepo sticks to this strategy. And so far, if he'd drawn yesterday, we would have said so far it's been a perfect strategy from Jan anyway. So
so far, he's playing the Rue Lopez, and I mean the margin of error is really small in these games. I mean, we could easily have been in a completely different match situation if Nepo managed to win game 5, where he
kind of close, right?
Yeah, where he was slightly better, as you mentioned.
Well, yesterday when he had 1 or 2 chances,
yeah, absolutely. So
is that what he has to remember? That he had big chances.
He has to remember that, and he also, I think he should stick to his plan. When you start mixing it up too much and start being very lashing out because you feel like nothing is working, then I don't think anything will work anymore. Yeah. So he should probably stick to his gun and stick to his plans, and try and play good chess, pretty much.
Yeah. One mistake that I noticed from Nepomniachtchi's play yesterday was that he had some great moves, played very, very well.
Did he actually knock over some pieces?
Yeah, I think he was trying to capture the Black Knight and he dropped it as he tried to take it off the board.
So, wow, and some nerves?
I'm not sure.
No, sometimes we're just clumsy.
Yeah, with me it's always clumsiness. Or maybe over haste. He thinks it's a strong move, so he wants to get it down on the board quickly. And
wow, but
was it what we expected, David?
It's not what I expected personally. I think White had a lot of options there. White could have just kept the tension, just pushed a c-pawn, not rushed with this trade. I thought maybe White was going to push the White c-pawn forward 2 squares. That was similar to something that Jan adopted in game 5, but no, the knights are off the board, and I quite like where the Black Queen is placed right now. That's why I was surprised by this exchange, but maybe Jan is just arguing that his bishops are better than the Black bishops. Maybe I'm expecting White's dark square bishop now to come out, and also White has control over this A file on the corner there, and that's quite a nice little kind of trump card to have in your pocket for later. It means the White rook will be able to infiltrate later. It means that White has access to all those squares, and okay, he's making a move. Okay, he just pushes the pawn just 1 square forward. So controlling the center, and this White pawn that has just moved actually dominates the Black Knight. The Black Knight now can never jump forward. The only way that Black Knight, which is a bit loose, can reroute itself is to retreat later on.
And it is the c3 move you've been talking about for a while now, so I guess that is expected.
Yeah.
It's pattern recognition. I mean, that's why we study openings. We study top-level Grandmaster games, because they would have been looking at the Spanish opening, the Rue Lopez, for their entire careers. And in the Rue Lopez, you nearly never see a game that White doesn't play this move.
Yeah.
So it was bound to happen sooner or later.
All right. Well, it seems to put Magnus back into some thinking. Let's head back down to Dubai. Rune is out and about the expo area around the playing venue in Dubai. What's going on today? Ooh, you're in the golf cart again, Rune.
Oh, absolutely, we are in the golf cart. We are in the buggy, and we have a very special guest with us today. You know, Kaja, what did you do when you were 12 years old? What were you proud of? I think I was proud of maybe playing on hard difficulty in video games, but this young man here, when you were 12-year-old, you were already a chess grandmaster. But did you become a grandmaster too late, you think?
No, definitely I think it's early. I wouldn't say it's early, but I think it was the correct time. I was strong at that point, and yeah. I was just happy to become a grandmaster at that point. I was trying to get the record of world singles grandmaster, but I couldn't achieve it. But it's always great to be a grandmaster at least.
Well, yeah, you were trying to beat Kajakin's record of becoming a grandmaster at 12 years and 7 months, and you ended 12 years and 10 months. But you are 2600 now, plus at 16 years of age, and you're watching the World Chess Championship. What was that like for you sitting there and watching the start of the game today?
Yeah, it was definitely nice to see the both players sitting there and, thinking. Nice to see their, how they think. And, think along with them is also a great thing. In the playing hall, to see the atmosphere. It's my first time here to watch the World Championship. The match in Chennai, I was there for one day, but just for 5 minutes something. So this is definitely a great experience for me.
And just for the viewers who may not know who you are already, I've been practicing trying to say your name, but you always say it's wrong. How do I say your name?
I think you can call me Prag, but my full name is Pragnananda.
Pragnananda, okay. I hope that's close enough.
That is close.
Okay, thank you very much. Becoming 2600, already at 16 years of age. How do you do that? How did you get into chess? How old were you when you got into chess?
My sister was playing chess at her age of 6, and at that point I was 2, and I would go and knock her pieces down when she's playing. So then my parents decided to get me a chessboard, and then I just started to play with the pieces, and then at the age of 5 I started to play the tournaments.
And your next tournament is not a small tournament; it's actually category A, Wijk and Zee. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, definitely. It's my great opportunity, and it's going to be a fun experience, and I hope I will do my best. And
yeah, you will be the youngest and also the lowest rated. What does it feel like to come as a young, even teenager, and play all these experienced chess professionals?
Yeah, definitely. For me, especially, it's going to be a great experience. I can learn a lot from these guys. And, to play Magnus and other strong players, and to play them over the board, it's even more fun, to watch them, in front of you and play. It's going to be a very fun experience.
Thank you very much. I have a last question for you. We are here at the Chess World Championship. You are one of the biggest chess talents in the entire world. Do you have plans or ideas about maybe an ultimate goal as a chess player?
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone's goal is to try to become a world champion, and my goal is the same. But for now, I just want to improve my chess and get stronger. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Here we are in Dubai with one of the biggest chess champions in the world, who says it should be your goal to become the world chess champion. What do you think about that, guys? Back to you.
Sounds like a very sensible plan from the young Pragnananda. 16 years old now. I guess we can't even call him a chess prodigy anymore. A well-known grandmaster. Been there for many years now.
Yeah, I still have nightmares about the time that Pragnananda beat me when he was 12 years old. He was already a grandmaster, but I was 2,700 at the time. I thought, okay, who's this kid? I can take him down, but no. I learnt my lesson, and I played him recently as well in the Grand Swiss in Riga, and he's supremely talented. I was studying his games before that match, and I was terrified. I've got to say, he's going to go far.
Yeah, and odds are Vishyanan will not be the last world champion from India, I guess, when we see the enormous talent coming from India these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many young Indian talents. I mean, it's just... You read about them on a daily basis, how India is getting a new young grandmaster, and also the female players as well. They're just really, really improving very quickly. I think that India even came second in the the Women's World Team Championships, which really was a big achievement because they weren't even at full force. So, yeah, what can I say? The future is going to be...
They're coming.
Yeah, they've even got players like Tanya, we should remember, a very strong player in her own right. So, yeah, so much depth.
They had a great team tournament not too long ago, right, India, with Tanya, amongst others.
This is the Women's World Team Championship, and Tanya was
maybe it was a mixed
heroine.
Thing, but it was
no, not
separate.
Separate, yeah.
Okay.
I know Tanya was the heroine of one of the matches. I think she defeated, I want to say, a Georgian player or Ukrainian. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, in 5 years' time, all of these teenage talents, Pragnananda, Gukesh, Sarin, Erigaisi, I mean, they're just going to dominate world chess. It's scary. It's scary. I think Russia, US, India, and maybe even Uzbekistan, I think those have the most promising youngsters right now.
Cool. Meanwhile, in the game, Magnus thinking for 6 minutes now. What will he do?
Good question. The move that Magnus wants to play, that he's itching to play, is to develop the black light-squared bishop, which is sitting at home. He wants to neutralize white's light-squared bishop, which is kind of the heart and soul of the Spanish opening. It was Fischer's favorite piece, of course, and maybe we can just show the downside to the move that Magnus wants to play, the reason he's paused for so long. So this piece, as we mentioned, is one of white's best pieces in this opening. It's aiming towards the black king. It controls a lot of squares. And if Magnus tries to swap it off, I think the reason he's paused is because this would allow white's rook to lift up the board. This square no longer covered by black's bishop. And it would attack the knight. Maybe this isn't such a big deal. The knight can just step back. But this would allow Nepomniachtchi to possibly push forward in the center. So maybe Magnus is just raising his eyebrows there, but maybe he's just weighing up whether this is something he can allow happily or whether he wants to stop white kind of expanding in the middle of the board. Meanwhile, other options could include, I think, Jon Christian's idea of just dropping the knight back immediately, so doing it without being forced, being ready to meet the pawn push in the center with another pawn push with black. Maybe just kind of creating maximum tension here, and if the pawns get traded, then it's roughly symmetrical. Black can gain even more space, and if white closes down the center eventually, then black can continue gaining space. And this type of structure is really hard to evaluate sometimes, but it feels like a quite promising version to me, at least for black, because the knight can end up on this square. White is going to have to spend a while trying to activate the pieces. Yes, white has access to this line, but eventually black can just move the bishop and then start challenging for the A file if necessary. And this type of position, roughly balanced, I would say. So Magnus, I think he's debating between these two moves. I don't really see any other tempting options, either bringing the bishop out to challenge its counterpart or just stepping back and rerouting the black knight, because this black knight is, after all, a bit of a loose piece.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised by Nepo's last move, not c3, but to exchange the knights on f6, unprovoked, so to speak, yeah, because it seems to me that black doesn't really want to take the knight on d5, and this is a bit mysterious to me, because it seems that black suddenly gets his pieces out in a very harmonious way with the queen on f6.
Okay, in the game position,
yeah, in the current position, that's right. So I'm a bit surprised by that, and I'm wondering why he did it. Yeah.
I completely agree. I'm very surprised. Maybe he just doesn't want to sit in a really tense position anymore. Personally, the move I was expecting, you said delaying this. I agree. I think he should have delayed it. I was expecting maybe even pushing the pawn forward. This is something similar to what he did in Game 5, and this would mean that any time the knight is captured, you could take back with this pawn. And yes, you get double pawns, but you control extra central squares. And once the black knight drops back, we see that these double pawns are actually a strength, because this guy can push forward. And suddenly, after some trades, this is simply a backward pawn. White has a pawn majority in the center and a very healthy position. So, okay, there would have been some consequences. Maybe Magnus would gain access to this square long-term later on, but to me, this looks quite promising for white.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, after a trade of knights,
in order to win, Nepo needs to keep complexity in the position.
But also, the knight trade breaks the rule book. I mean, I'm primarily thinking of the rule that we have, that when you have less space, you should try to trade pieces. And here, by playing knight takes knight, it's black the one who has the less space. Take a look at all the minor pieces on the back row. So, therefore, Nepomniachtchi is actually doing Magnus's job for him.
Also, yeah, I mean, talking about the basics, white has moved the knight once, twice, 3 times just to exchange a piece that's only moved once. So, yeah, it feels strange. He literally just brought his knight out once, twice, and for the 3rd time, just to exchange a piece that wasn't necessarily amazing. He could have kept the pieces or rerouted his pieces, and I don't think there would have been too many... well, at least it would have given more questions for Magnus to answer. But in the current position, I mean, I'm finding it hard to choose between this bishop move and this knight retreat, but I think Magnus should be fine either way. He just needs to do a bit of calculation, ensure he's not allowing white to kind of break forward at the right moment, and then I think he'll make his move, Magnus.
Is it too early to call who's sort of, best in this position right now?
I mean, we can have a vote here maybe, but I would slightly prefer being white just because white has the pawn breaks. White can push forward at any time. White still has this open file. I don't think white is risking anything at all. I still think black is the one who needs to be accurate. But then again, if black is careful, as Jon Christian said, I mean, there are ideas such as knight just retreating and rerouting, and it looks healthy enough for black. Definitely,
I'm very colored by the computer evaluation that says it's just 0-0, but it kind of makes sense, or it looks like a very balanced position. I gotta say, there's no material imbalance. The position itself, I mean, the pawn position is very similar. Development is quite similar. So yeah, it's all about finding a useful plan, I think, for both colors, really, and trying to play against your opponent's plan and trying to achieve your own. Yeah.
Has Team Nepomniachtchi been able to surprise Magnus at all?
Maybe slightly, but it's not the best kind of surprise. I mean, the ultimate kind of surprise in the opening is something that forces your opponent to walk a narrow path in order to just survive. But this is the kind of surprise where, okay, if black is accurate, I mean, black has 3 or 4 moves that are probably just fine. Yeah, I mean, there's different types of surprises, and I don't think that this is one that Nepomniachtchi will look back on and think, wow, this was a great opening idea. It feels like his coaching team as well. Yes, they've probably played training games in this type of position, but maybe they were just running out of ideas slightly. And
but also I'm just looking at Nepomniachtchi's use of the clock. To me, it doesn't smell like this was home preparation. It looks to me like he's making things up a little bit.
We do have to remember, from the 24 minutes or so that Nepomniachtchi spent, probably 20 of those minutes were away from the board.
That's
or
true.
15 minutes of those were away from the board. So
I forgot about that very crucial factor there.
And remember as well, if we rewind to game 4 of this match, Jan Nepomniachtchi spent nearly an hour on the clock, but he later revealed that he had that position on his computer, that he studied it before to the end of the game. So, yeah, sometimes it's hard to call. The players can be bluffing. Is Magnus smiling, meanwhile?
I think so.
Slightly smiling.
Does that mean he's thinking about something completely different than this game?
It could be.
Could be.
I mean, it is a weekend. Maybe he's thinking about the football.
Yes. Or maybe a tune is stuck in his head. That's every chess player's worst nightmare. You're sat there thinking, absorbed into the position, and some tune comes in, and you're like, get it out.
Yeah, it's impossible to get rid of it. But the solution for this, that I think Magnus also does actually, is to you just pick out a song beforehand that you want to have in your head during the game. So preferably a song that gives you motivation and stamina, maybe a bit of fighting spirit. So I know he has listened a lot to Eminem right before his games, for example.
We should listen to that. We've been stuck with the Baby Shark.
Oh, don't start that.
No, Kaja.
One starts singing it before the show, and then everyone.
The best is Mulan, I'll Make a Man Out of You. That's get pumped. That's the Get Psyched mix.
Actually, there's a very nice one which my French team used to have, and it was Bryan Adams' We're Gonna Win. And so it was just, we're gonna win, and so don't want to be a loser, gonna score. And then I'd had that in my head the whole time, and I actually got 4 points out of 4. So maybe I should actually learn from this rather than just dismiss. Yeah,
I remember that from playing sports when I was a kid as well. The warm-ups with the team when we put on music and ran around together warming up, it's just the best feeling. You got really pumped up.
Maybe that's what Jan needs to do now. Talking of Eminem, will the real Nepomniachtchi please stand up? I mean, there must be ways you can put spins on songs.
You're great at that, David.
I've done some challenges.
I have another move suggestion actually coming from Twitter, where people are asking, what about before?
Okay.
As in, I can't think of a word. I can't think of a pun there.
Before we delve into the other moves, maybe we can check out the move before. Okay, so this pawn push, suggested by some of our viewers on Twitter. And actually, Magnus did something very similar in Game 5. Again, just pattern recognition, and if someone's choosing these types of plans, maybe they will be attracted to them again. And the idea is to open up this black rook. So I don't think white wants to close things down. If white blocks things up now, then simply this bishop is an unhappy piece, and this square is a potential outpost for black's knight. I think the one downside to this move is that it will give the white bishop a new diagonal if it needs. Maybe it's not too drastic yet. It's nothing too serious, because black can just block this pin and defend his knight with his own bishop. But I would be slightly reluctant to walk into this type of tension, especially, for example, if white steps forward with his pawn. Because if there are a bunch of trades in the centre, then always there's going to be threats of pushing this pawn one square forward. Not yet, but at some point later, and some serious trouble maybe along this diagonal. Mm-hmm. So I do like the move at some point, b4, just to keep it in your pocket, but I don't think you should rush before you're ready.
Yeah,
So,
very good. But it's sorry.
No, I think you need to sort out these two pieces first, and then maybe keep this one for later. Carry on, Jovanka.
I was just going to say, one thing that we've noticed from these variations that you've shown us is that every move will have its consequences. Mm-hmm. And it seems to be this is the trademark of an opening like the Rue Lopez. You know, you want to put your bishop on a bad diagonal, well, that's going to have consequences, because white will lock it out. If you want to put a bishop to challenge the light square bishop, well, you give up a square.
Consequences.
And the rook will dive in. And then if you go backwards with your knight, well, that's a red flag for white to go forward with the pawn. So is there any way to kind of do nothing?
I don't think you want to do nothing, to be honest. I think if you give Magnus 4 or 5 moves, this is one thing I always recommend to people when it comes to formulating a plan, just coming up with an idea. It's just basically, just imagine what you would do if your opponent does nothing for 4 or 5 moves. And here, if you said this to Magnus, I have no doubt he would bring his knight over to this side of the board, just kind of keeping his king safe, maybe ready to jump towards the white king. Okay, let's say, for example, he starts with this. If white just passes, then he would bring his knight over. If white passes again, then he would maybe push a pawn just to keep control over the centre. If white passes again, now he would start thinking about either jumping in or maybe just eliminating this white light-squared bishop. And black's position is extremely healthy here, no problems at all. He can even challenge for the open line later. So this is an ideal scenario, of course. This is requiring white's help. There the jacket comes off. But either way, if you do start with this move, then you think, OK, white does have moves. White can push forward, but then you try and look for replies. And yes, you can continue bringing your knight round. It's very consistent. Or, as I mentioned a bit earlier, you can push your pawn. And this is, again, very thematic type of Rue Lopez idea. Just challenging white centre, hinting that you might explode things open, but forcing at least white to make a decision, whether to maintain the tension, whether to take or block. And I think all of those answers, all of those options are still fine for black. So the more I look at it, the more I'm tempted with this knight move. But of course, this bishop move is maybe the most natural, and this one, I think, for later. This suggestion from our viewers.
Well, Magnus Carlsen thinking for 20 minutes on this move. Do you think the two players, do they seem sharp today? Shark?
They seem baby shark
baby
today.
Shark. Sharp.
It's in your brain now, Kaja.
Yeah, I know.
They seem a bit fish to me, but yes. Rather, no, they, I don't know. I'm not sure if I would say that this is an opening success exactly for Jan. It seems to me that Magnus has equalized. But then again, depends a little bit on what Jan wants to get out of this game. He has a very solid position, and by no means is this game over or draw or anything. So anything can still happen here. And yeah, it's all about finding the correct plans, as you mentioned, David.
Yeah. And stylistically, do you think this suits one player or the other? It's hard to say, right?
It's very hard to say.
Okay, here it comes after 20 minutes. A retreat of the knight.
Yes, and again, this is just pattern recognition. That black knight in this opening, in lots of the e45 openings actually, that black knight needs to reroute itself because it was dominated by a pawn, it could never jump forward. Also, it was undefended, it was on a loose square, and we saw some lines where the white bishop would attack that knight or the white rook would attack that knight. So it makes sense to preempt those threats with a rerouting. And Nepomniachtchi now will probably just go into the tank for a few minutes to think.
Magnus standing up and walking away, trying to make it into a statement, perhaps. But it seems that they are doing this every move, so I'm not sure if if it is a statement anymore or anything.
They're sick of the sight of each other. Right? Spending nearly 3 weeks staring at each other. It's understandable they want to break.
Was that trend started by Jan, who's been, he's hardly been by the board, or is it normal in World Championship history that players will leave the board?
I wouldn't say it's that normal. I mean, you see players leave the board occasionally, but not normally every single move, and not for so long.
No.
What do you think?
I don't recall anyone leaving the board so often as much as Jan has. I mean, I remember that we've seen some acting going on when the players are sat at the board.
Really?
We saw, I think it was Magnus, and against Avicii Anand, we saw him falling asleep at the board.
Yes.
We saw him with a leg dangling off the chair. We saw all sorts of things. And I think he did that deliberately just to provoke an emotional reaction from Avicii Anand. But getting off, going away from the board and just being absent for long periods of the time, it's very rare, because you kind of also want to look at your opponent and eyeball them a little bit and get a sensation of how they're feeling. Are they comfortable? And this is going to sound bad, but a part of you does like to see them suffer.
Especially yesterday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And if we think of Magnus's 3 previous challenges, Anand, Kariakin and Caruana, none of them are really walkers, as I would say. They don't walk around that much. They like to sit at the board for as long as possible. So it's a new strategy. Maybe he's just trying something different that Magnus hasn't faced before.
I mean, generally in open tournaments and whatnot, players will walk around quite a lot, but it differs a lot from player to player. But I can say that when you see somebody just doing very quick moves and walking around, then it's usually a very strong opponent versus a maybe not so strong opponent, because they simply don't need to spend so much time at the table, because they know what to do, and they kind of claim that this is easy. So I'm not sure if that is Jan's plan exactly, to claim that this is easy. I don't need to sit here and think against you, Magnus. But maybe he's trying to make some sort of psychological claim about it. I'm not sure.
Has anyone ever done this to you, where they've just played pretty much instantly, left the board?
Yes, I played against the Grandmaster who crushed me either way, but they just make the move and just leave immediately and leave me hanging there with my own problems at the board. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's just habit. It's part of their character. I'm sure it wasn't anything about you. I'm sure he wasn't trying to tell you that he expected to win or anything. But I mean, there's some grandmasters. For example, Peter's Fiddler comes to mind. He never sits at the board. One move, he'll get up and pace around, up and down, looking at other games, just a bit restless, but he's always thinking about the game while he's walking.
Also a Russian, so maybe Jan will be inspired. And maybe also a solution to keeping the players by the chessboard is having a beer on the chessboard. We're going to head back down to Simon at the famous Good Night pub in Oslo. What is the mood like now, Simon?
It's actually really good down here. It's starting to pick up. I think people are a little bit nervous, maybe, about the opening, because Magnus has gone for this this system he got in a little bit of trouble in last time. But we'll take a little walk through. You can see that lots of people are not even watching the match. They're playing their own blitz games, having a lot of fun. They don't care about Magnus Carlsen. Do you guys want Magnus to win? You do, yeah? You're a Magnus fan, yeah? OK, good stuff. And we're going to now walk through to meet one of the co-owners of the bar. First of all, let's say hello to my friend over here, Blair Connell. Hi. Hello, Blair. You doing all right?
Very well, thank you.
Who's come all the way from England, and he's a major Magnus fanboy, kind of. And we're now going to speak to Christopher, who's one of the co-owners. And Christopher knows a lot of facts about the world champions. And we're going to start with Lasker. Now, we spoke about Lasker beforehand. You got a really cool fact about Lasker. Now, tell us something that people at home might not know about the second world champion, Lasker.
People probably know that he smoked cigars. Maybe know that he smoked a lot of cigars. But at the tournament once, he was offered a cigar from the audience. And of course, he said yes. what he found out later when he was smoking it was that it was filled with opium.
Wow. Okay. So there we go. So Laska smoking an opium cigar. And I'd love to know what his chest was like. And another world champion, another good story, we were talking about Smyslov. And Smyslov was, well, we mentioned him in one of the previous days, and he was interested in alternative medicine. So tell us, like, one of the things he suggested to do.
Well, if you were seriously sick, you should actually try to drink your own urine.
Okay, well, and I guess that drinking your own urine does it make you a world champion, do you think? Does it help you think better?
Maybe you should ask Magnus.
Okay, well, on that thought... I can feel my elo rising already. Back to you in the studio.
No. Please say that's beer, Simon. Please tell me that's beer.
You will never know. You will never know.
You crazy man. Wow.
Look, the things I do for the show is, yeah, but yes, it is beer, thankfully, so just to clarify.
All right. Well, speaking of which, actually, Simon, we do have John Christian in the studio today, and doing stuff for the show, he has allowed us to shave off the mustache later on, and it seems I am the one who have to do it. I've never done it before. You know, with your beard, do you have any tips? How do I shave off a mustache?
How do you shave off a moustache? This is nearly as weird as asking me about the urine and beer. I mean, you normally... do you really want me to give you a demonstration of how you shave off a moustache? You get a razor, just plonk something on there and just whip it off. Just whip it off. It's, you know, I'm sure you'll manage it, Kaja. So, yeah.
I guess we're saying best of luck to John Christian.
Sensible day today.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really looking forward to it.
What a day. Simon, thank you so much, and keep enjoying those exotic drinks down there at the Good Night. Wow.
Very, very exotic drinks we're having today, so thank you. And I'll see you again soon.
Definitely. And thanks for the tip as well. Wow, all right. Well, if you are in Oslo, and even if you speak English, I could see that our show was up on the screen. You could head down to the Good Night. Sounds like a lot of weird stuff is going on down there today. How about on the board? Some weird stuff?
The only weird thing is seeing Nepomniachtchi think for so long. No, still the same position, nothing too drastic. I think Nepomniachtchi's just debating whether to push his central pawn forward, maybe develop the white dark-squared bishop, not doing too much, or maybe using his rook on the open line. Lots of choice for Nepomniachtchi. Still very much maintaining the status quo. Roughly balanced position, despite what the evaluation bar says of a small white advantage.
Yeah. All right.
Early days.
I keep thinking about pee now.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that pee is supposed to keep you healthy? I remember a Friends episode, you know, when they have to pee on each other because they got stung by a jellyfish or something.
Yeah, I remember that too. It was Chandler and Monica. Yeah, but yeah, it's kind of, I've had it more as a dare or as a challenge for money or something, but not as a cure for feeling unwell.
No.
Sounds like witch doctor medicine to me.
I guess we've all had experiences as well during chess games of kind of needing the bathroom going, but then not being able to because of the clock situation. And
that must be the worst.
It really is the worst.
Have you ever made a proper toilet blunder?
Yes, many times.
What is a proper toilet blunder?
When you're so desperate for the bathroom that you just need to make a move, and you just make any move, and then you run to the bathroom and you come back and you realise, I've just blundered. I've just blown it. And no toilet blunders in this game yet, because White's bishop comes out to a very sensible square. And that White bishop now on a better circuit, potentially, maybe. In this type of opening, there's a very famous example by Karpov of White's bishop actually going the whole way to the A7 square. Not in this exact position, but maybe.
Yeah, it's an instructive idea.
Concept for later. White's bishop, if it does go to A7, would attack the black rook. And it would kind of plug black's access to the open A file. So Nepomniachtchi just getting ready for the action to start, for the position to open up, but also hinting at some possible threats later in the game. So Magnus now, I'm expecting the knight to move again. Maybe he can challenge the light squared bishops. He can offer a trade of bishops, or he can push the black c-pawn forward 2 squares. So once more, a lot of choice. No wrong or right here for the world champion.
But what you mentioned there with bishop a7 is quite relevant, it seems to me. I mean, if you move the knight now to g6, then I think you simply you trap the rook, right? Actually, because knight.
It's a toilet blunder.
It is. And then bishop a7 and whether rook goes to b7 or a8 doesn't really matter. You still play bishop d5, and the rook has nowhere to go.
Wow.
This bishop is defended by its rook here, and this rook would be trapped. Yeah, I mentioned a move being the most natural move, and it was a toilet blunder. It was a blunder. And that means Magnus doesn't have the time to plant his knight on its ideal square yet. He wants to play this move, but maybe he has to stop white's bishop accessing this square. So in the current position, a little trap by Nepomniachtchi, hoping for this knight move. Instead, I'm expecting Magnus to maybe just bring his bishop to the centre, just to stop white's bishop ever kind of coming in to trap the black rook, as we showed just then. A trade, I think, would only help black, who's maybe slightly cramped. It's either this move, or you push your pawn and block the bishop's diagonal. So it's never going to creep in now to that a7 square.
So yesterday, I remember the bishop pair was great pieces for Magnus in the opening stages of the game. What pieces are his strongest today?
Ooh, for Magnus, I know that this is not his strongest piece, this black bishop blocked in. It will come to life later. We should mention it's not necessarily the worst piece in the world yet, but we could end up in a scenario where everything gets traded off, except maybe one of white's knights. White's knight against this bishop. That's the ideal scenario, I think, for Nepomniachtchi, to trade everything off apart from the knight and bishop. And then that's what we call a good knight versus bad bishop scenario. Talking of the good knight pub. That's the worst piece for black. Meanwhile, I think white's best pieces are these bishops. That's why in the previous position, if he doesn't push this pawn forward, which is tempting, then he should probably try and trade off white's best piece, this bishop. And exchanges, I think, will only guide black closer to safety.
Okay. Well, in the move, Magnus Carlsen, he has less time on the clock than Jan Nepomniachtchi, but no worries yet. Will they have nightmares after what happened yesterday, leading up to move 40, and try desperately to avoid the same situation?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the players, remember, they do start with 120 minutes on the clock for 40 moves. That means 3 minutes on average per move. I think Magnus is around that area right now, so he's not in time trouble yet. But if he has another couple of long thinks over 10 minutes, then we could see potentially another time scramble ahead. It's very rare, actually, what we saw yesterday. I think, especially for these two players who are known to be quite quick, to trust their instincts, to see them both under, what was it, 2 or 3 minutes with a few moves remaining. It was something really unexpected.
Yeah, totally unexpected as well. And both of these players are known for being quite fast players as well and being very pragmatic. But we saw yesterday the nerves and the complexity of the position really got to them. So
do you think we'll see more of that, actually, as the games go on? More time scrambles, more nerves, more indecisiveness.
I can even see it in a position like this, because it's not entirely clear what both sides' plans are, because, you know, every single time white steps forward and tries to open up a line, well, there's consequences. Maybe you release the dark squared bishop from its cage. And then, again, we have the issue, like, what pieces to trade. You mentioned the light squared bishop, but, you know, again, that is quite a committal decision, because once it's off, you kind of leave yourself with a very bad bishop, and white's pieces get more freedom. So I can see the players settling in for a very long think here, then kind of settling on their plans, and then the position just sharpening up around the time travel stage.
Mm-hmm. I'm a bit inclined to call what happened yesterday bad time management, really, because, you shouldn't get yourself into such a position where you have a really complex position, and what was it? You had 10 moves on 3 minutes. Yeah, that's just oof. Really, it's a bit reckless. But then again, it's like in every position you have that is really complex and difficult to figure out. If you make a bad move, well, then it's better to spend time and not make a bad move in the current position, because if you make a bad move, then okay, then you have lost. So those are the sort of dilemmas that they are faced against. But I mean, these are seasoned players. They know what to do, and they are usually very good at managing their time. And I think they are doing so right now, at least. This is it's not a tricky position per se, but it's difficult in the sense that you need to figure out what you want to do and what your plans are and what your opponent wants to do.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Magnus has indeed challenged the light squared bishops. Very sensible, the evaluation bar. Not 100% sure about that move, but personally, I think it was maybe the safest, the most logical in the position. And yeah, on the topic of time as well, I get teased a lot for my handling of the clock. I'm always in time trouble. But then again, it can be difficult, and I've especially been told that it's positions where you have a lot of choice, where you have 4 or 5 moves of roughly the same value, where it might not change the nature of the position, but just giving me that choice forces me to burn the time. And it seems like the same for Magnus. Every turn, he's had 2 or 3 moves, but just choosing between them, comparing, contrasting them, that's where he spends his time. He's not spending the time when calculation is required, because he's so good at that, so quick at that. Both players are, but it's more in the positions where it's really unclear what the plan is.
Yeah. Do you think it was annoying for Jan Nepomniachtchi when he came back to his hotel yesterday and looked at the game? If he had just spent maybe 5 minutes less on an earlier move to have that time in the time scramble leading up to move 40, and maybe to be able then to see when he had a winning position against Magnus.
If he hadn't been away from the board for so long, there were some times he would be away from the board for 5 to 10 minutes when it was his move. Maybe just one time, if he had that extra few minutes, it would have changed everything.
I was going to say that the moments that I think he's really going to regret and it's going to play on him are those moments when Magnus was in time trouble and he played tricky moves just to put Magnus under pressure. But they backfired because they weren't good moves. And, he could have played the very elementary bishop takes pawn, which we were all screaming to be played. And we were all like, well, why didn't he do this?
E3.
It was the bishop take the pawn on B4.
B4 was the square.
Yeah, and it just didn't... And he
could have got the same position he got in the game, essentially, but with an extra pawn. And that would have been a huge difference.
Exactly. And I think that moment will play on him because it was his own choices. And it was also all the characteristic failings that we've kind of spoken about that Magnus is going to be trying to exploit, such as emotions, such as risk-taking. He's a gambler by nature. And not gambling, but he's prepared to take the high risk, and here it just didn't pay off.
Yeah,
that's the issue. I mean, Magnus kind of lured him in. He didn't do it on purpose, Magnus, but he kind of tricked him. He just said, "Okay, I'm low on time. You play against my clock. Don't play the board. Play the clock." And that's what Nepomniachtchi did yesterday.
Yeah.
And he only realised too late that he'd kind of let things slip. So.
Yeah. It was a dramatic game yesterday. We're going to head back down to Tanya in Dubai. Any chances, do you think, Tanya, that we will see anything close to the drama we had yesterday in today's game?
It looks very doubtful right now, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be a long strategic fight, but the dramatic action of yesterday, that's going to be a tough one to repeat, what Henrik mentioned as well. And I think Magnus would be happy to kill today's game, but of course, Jan's going to have something to say about that before. Now, I am at the expo. I'm on the first floor of the exhibition center. I want to give you guys a little feel, a little bird's eye view of what's going on, because there's so much chess action here. We see behind us a giant chessboard. There's a game on there. You can see a lot of audience, a lot of spectators who are sitting there watching the live commentary by Grandmaster Anna Musichuk along with Vishwanathan Anand. On the right side is where all the drama is happening. The playing hall is on the right, and we do see Jan Nepomniachtchi's trainers just walked in, Vladimir Potkin. Hopefully we'll try and get an interview with him later on. So lots of action going on, but right now it is also about how is Magnus going to neutralize Jan with the black pieces. He's currently made the move bishop e6, offering a trade. I've got with us Grandmaster Alexander Sholowich to take us through the action here. Alex, what do you think about the position?
Well, I think, first of all, I would like to say that the position is similar to the previous white games where Nepomniachtchi played. And I think it's quite indicative that he follows his strategy even after losing a very bad game yesterday. Very long, very tiring, so he did not have that much time to rest, prepare, maybe readjust the strategy. But I think it also shows that he wants to keep it tight. He doesn't want to do anything crazy because maybe he's not as stable emotionally just yet. So he just continues with his strategy that he started the match with. And now we get, again, a strategical position, maneuvering position, where after Magnus's last move, the bishop to e6, well, white has a choice to make. The general plan here for white is just to advance in the center like this. And now the choice is that, does he keep these bishops? You see that the bishops can be exchanged. So will he take? Okay, will he avoid the exchange by moving away, or will he advance him directly? So it's something to think about, but either any decision he takes at this stage, it won't change the character of the game, which, as I said, was strategic and I would say even safe for both sides. So we're not seeing any dramatic change in the strategy by Nepomniachtchi, and I think this is indicative for this stage of the match, which is halfway through now.
Alex, Jovanka mentioned emotions are going to play high in this round, especially after the action that we saw in Game 6. Now, are you surprised with Jan's still slow approach with the white pieces, or do you think it makes a lot of sense calming down and then regrouping, resetting for the next white?
Yeah, the second, yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense because we have noticed before that Jan is not very stable when reacting to a loss. So I think he has learned, and now he's not trying to do anything abrupt. And after all, there are still 7 more games left, so it's still no time to take huge risks. So he's just taking it slowly, okay, putting slight pressure on Magnus, which I think Magnus should be able to absorb it and well, not experience any great problems. But for now, I think it is the correct strategy for the challenger to just stay calm, okay, stabilize, and then try in the next games.
All right, thank you so much, Alex, for those insights. Grandmaster Alexander Salshalovic approves of Jan's approach in this game. It is all about getting control of those nerves. Still predicting a long one in this Game 7. So many pieces on the board, still a close structure. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Tanya. And it's happening, you guys. The Moustache Man is about to lose his Moustache Movember is over, and that means the moustache has to go. But first, we have to analyze the move that has come. Are you getting nervous?
Yeah, what we don't do for entertainment here. Yeah, it's incredible.
All right, well, David, first, we of course have to analyze the moves.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to that so much. But yeah, first, a quite important move as well, because Jan Nepomniachtchi, he's tired of just playing the waiting game. He's tired of just maneuvering and slowly creeping forward, slowly improving his pieces. He's now pushing in the center. And Jovanka, it's quite a critical move, right? We have to just show one idea here because Magnus has to be accurate. He cannot, I think, allow white's pawn to continue pushing in the center. If, for example, he's slow, if he just moves his knight to the side, then the pawn will push forward. Black is too cramped, black loses space, and the white rook now will break forward, I think, almost decisively. Black has to be super careful here just to survive. The pawn structure is bad for black. White has more space and more active pieces. So right now, Magnus needs to stop this pawn push somehow. Will he do that by just calmly pushing his pawn, preventing the advance, or will he maybe initiate some trades? At some point, take this bishop. At some point, maybe even considering taking this pawn. Either way, Magnus has to be really energetic here just to hold the balance. It's not going to be easy for him, and I expect a pretty long think now for the world champion as things start to heat up.
All right, and it's heating up in the corner. We are ready to shave off the moustache. Are you feeling ready, John Christian?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sorry, before we do this, if this does not turn out too good for you. So you're putting on the shaving cream.
Mm-hmm.
We YouTube this, so we know how to do it. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Put a lot on, just so, yeah, on the safe side here. Very nice.
This definitely won't go wrong, guys.
That looks very good, yeah.
Looks like you've done this before.
Yeah. Putting on the shaving.
Hard to comment while doing this.
So, Jon Christian, what do you think of the position?
It's great, it's great. D4, very interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Are you nervous? You had the moustache on now for over a month.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten a little bit used to it, but yeah, I'm looking forward to saying goodbye to it as well.
And of course, remember everyone, the Movember is in promotion of men's health, right? So it's a good idea to also donate money, if possible, to any organization in your country working for men's health. Now, this one for you.
I've got to say,
you think I need more?
I mean, can you not? I don't think you can have enough.
Yeah, give me some more.
Yeah, just to be on the safe side. Come on.
I've got to say, this is perfect, guys.
Whoa.
We've got the close-up of Magnus with his moustache, and we've got you there, Jon Christian.
I think you should say to Magnus that he should take his beard and leave the moustache for the occasion, yeah?
Okay, we will propose this to him.
Yeah, if this turns out good, people are going to be screaming to be guests on our show to get a little bit of extra treatment.
Absolutely, Kaja.
All right, are we ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm actually really nervous.
Good luck, guys.
Hand. That's the key.
Are you nervous?
Yes.
Okay, let's try. Yeah, very nice. Ooh. Oh, does it hurt?
Oh, it's good.
It's good? Okay. Okay, it's quite soft. Okay, it's not no blood yet. Okay, I probably have to do this.
Wow.
Very nice.
Nice.
Two professionals over here.
Yeah.
Who's more nervous right now, Magnus or Jon Christian? Both keeping poker faces.
Okay, well, this is going to take some time. There is a lot of hair after a month of growing that moustache.
I'm just jealous he can grow a moustache.
Okay, one side is starting to look really good here.
What do you think of Kaja's skills here, Jon Christian? Is she a better chess player or better with the razor?
I think actually I'm a better barber.
I haven't seen her play chess yet, though.
Okay.
Wow. Smoother than the day you were born.
Yeah. Okay, this side is starting to look really good now, actually.
Yeah.
But the problem is now I have to do the other side with my left hand.
It's like that song. We're halfway there.
Okay.
Very
let's
tricky.
Go. Anyone left-handed in the studio here?
No.
No?
And now is not the time to give up, Kaja. You've got to keep going.
I know, yeah, because you don't want to end up with half a moustache.
Although famous chess commentator Hans Olaf Lahlem once did this, right? Half his beard, half his moustache.
Really?
Yeah. I heard the story. It was in
add some more?
Yeah, do that.
Heartbreak.
He actually has a world record. Hans Olaf Lahlem, the Norwegian, he has done the longest ever interview.
Wow.
I think he sat for 2 days in a studio doing an interview about history.
Maybe we'll have to break that record sometime, Kaja. Okay.
Okay.
Almost there now.
Actually, this was much easier than I thought. You guys complained too much about how hard you guys.
We're in the end game of the shaving now.
Yeah. Very nice. A very cool customer as well. No complaining.
Oh, no, that's good.
How much pain are you in right now, Jon Christian?
I can see that you get some hair in your mouth. I'm sorry about that.
How many times has Kaja cut that lip?
Actually, no blood yet.
Wow. You and Magnus no longer look like brothers.
Oh, that's the problem, right? So what was, okay, I know it's hard for you to talk now. What was the reaction in the Offerspill, the chess club that Magnus is also a member of, and your general manager, after the game yesterday?
Oh, relief.
Relief? And I did hear a move.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jon Christian, about that move?
Natural, yeah.
Natural move? Okay, we're finishing off here, David. What's happening?
It's a committal move, just like Jon Christian's committal decision to allow us to shave his moustache. It's a committal move from the world champion. He's given up his stronghold in the center with black. He's exchanged a pawn, and now he's just asking a question to Jan Nepomniachtchi. How's he going to recapture? Will white retake that pawn with his own pawn, building a nice, strong center there, or will he try and gain time and go for maybe a more dynamic approach by taking this pawn back with a bishop or with the white knight? Both of those two last options, they're less strategic, but they do play more for piece activity. And maybe just knowing Nepomniachtchi, that's his style. So personally, I would be looking at taking back with a pawn first, just because I like my pawn structure. But early days.
No,
think now ahead.
I totally agree, David. Take the centaur, as Andras Toft says.
Yes, and let's go.
Oh.
Meanwhile, let's go back.
Wow, okay.
I think we finished the shaving.
Yeah.
Well
No
done.
pieces shaved off, but the moustache is officially gone. How does it feel?
Voila.
Yeah.
The baby face is back.
Like 10 years younger.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Thank you, thank
It's
you.
a new man. Okay, the viewers will obviously miss the moustache. But for men's health, you guys, Movember and impressive stuff.
Yeah,
Joe?
great stuff.
Yeah?
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go clean up. David, what is the possibilities now for Magnus Carlsen?
Yeah, so Magnus Carlsen has just made this huge decision. And Jovanka, you weren't so sure about this one. Pawn takes pawn. What do we think Nepomniachtchi will reply with? 3 options. I don't think we'll see anything other than taking back this pawn, either with your own pawn, the bishop, or with the white knight.
Has to be taken back with the pawn. Take
with the pawn.
centre. Yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, I dream about these type of positions. Just because the big goal here would be to, and you showed this kind of idea earlier on, which is just to push the d4 pawn 1 square, put your knight on d4, and then just start eyeballing that black backward pawn on c7. Is such a nice strategic plan there.
Yeah, easy strategic plan as well. The queen will come from the front to attack this pawn. The rook will come from the front, from the side to attack this pawn.
Yeah,
really
all you
dangerous.
have to do is handle black's initiative there on the right side. But, you know, once the queens are off, no problem.
The big question, though, is whether you have time for this, Jovanka, because in a position where your opponent has the centre, it means they have more space. Then you should aim for trades. You should angle for piece exchanges. And here, Magnus Carlsen, without thinking, no doubt, he will take the bishops off the board. Now, he has less pieces. That means he won't be cramped as black. He doesn't have to worry about space so much. And I have a feeling now he might just move his knight. And there is an attack against white's pawn centre. It's not completely stable yet. So how would you react to this, Jovanka? The white pawn now on e4, under attack from the black rook. You have to defend it. Defend it with the queen, maybe?
Yep, defend it with the queen.
Take a step back.
Yeah, take a step back.
Defending this pawn. And
exactly.
Now,
keep calm.
And Magnus, I think, because this pawn risks becoming a backward pawn, as you mentioned, if white pushes forward and fixes this pawn on its home square, I think he's going to just push forward at some point, Magnus, and try and explode open the position. He's going to try and dynamically solve all his problems. And the problem is, the issue here for white is that you cannot quite win a pawn, I think, after bishop takes pawn. Possibly there's a pin on this line, although white can back up his bishop with a pawn. But if Magnus just wants to play safe, he can just trade and then take this pawn with his queen, and everything's starting to disappear from the board. It's maybe not so simple if the white rook slides across, but Magnus should be guiding this game towards safety. And yeah, if in the current position, this was a long variation, if pawn takes pawn, I think we'll see Magnus take back and just move his knight and put some pressure on the strong white centre. Alternatives would be maybe to take with the bishop, which I'm quite tempted by, but then black will just sidestep, and still some threats, still some ideas of bishop takes pawn, maybe utilising this pin. And if black can trade off these bishops, I think Magnus will be happy.
The most demoralising thing for white in this type of line is that the black queen is not trapped. It still has some escape squares. Because at first I got very excited, like, oh, can I force the queen back to a really terrible square? But no, she can step forward.
She can step forward, yeah. And here we could see the queen and knight do a bit of a dance. The knight step back, attacking the queen retreating. And I don't think we'll see the game end in a draw like this, but yeah, Nepomniachtchi maybe can just let things fizzle out. Anyway, let's come back to the studio.
Interesting. And I'm a little bit out of breath. I had to go wash my hand after that interesting barber experience. We have to run down to Dubai. One of the most interesting people to hear from now is, of course, the main second to Jan Nepomniachtchi.
Absolutely, Kaja. As the position heats up, we've had a dramatic Game 6, and going into this new phase of the match, it is a lot about the player's mindset now, showing very strong nerves. And we've got with us Grandmaster Vladimir Potkin. Vladimir, yesterday did not end well, though. Both players, massive fight. They both had their chances. How do you move going forward from yesterday's result?
Yeah, well, we expected that something like that will happen during World Championship match, because there will be some fighting games. Magnus and Jan are fighting in each game, and yesterday Jan also had big chances at some point to play for a win, but then its tables were turned. Mostly due to time trouble, and of course we pay credit for Magnus' play. He really put a lot of efforts, I think, in yesterday's game. But you never know. It's of course two big players are fighting. So yesterday was Magnus' day, so we expected that one of the days will be Jan's.
Tremendous fight yesterday by both players, and Jan showed extreme sportsmanship. When in the press conference, he said, yes, he wants to bounce back in style. Now, you mentioned that these kind of situations are thought of before the match, that something like this can happen. So the approach going forward is also something that the team already has in mind?
Well, for sure. I mean, a match is not one game, and it's not like World Cup where you just have 2 games, and once one game is finished, you are already in a big trouble. So here is a long match, and to lose the game, it's not like a decisive one. Yeah, it's a part of this long journey. So we are ready for this, and of course, Jan is just having a good mood for today, and he's concentrating and playing like always.
That's great to hear, because a big fight is what we all look forward to now. The approach that Jan has had in today's opening, it's not going all out. It's putting slight pressure on Black, keeping that pressure going consistently. So is that part of the plan, just taking it slow right now and nothing to be desperate about?
Well, but it also depends on Magnus. Yeah, if Magnus allows a fast attack, but I think he will not allow. Yeah, so Jan is just playing normal chess, and why not enjoy this long game? I think it will not be short, and we expect to be many news today.
You're expecting a long game. What about the current position, Vladimir? Are you happy with the outcome of the opening so far?
Well, I think White has pleasant position, but of course it's just the beginning, so it will be very interesting to see.
Thank you so much for joining us, Vladimir. Grandmaster Vladimir Potkin, Jan Nepomniachtchi's longtime second trainer, with his insights into the mindset of the challenger.
Thanks so much, Tanya. So interesting to hear his thoughts on what Team Nepo is doing now after the loss yesterday. An experienced trainer, Jan Vladimir Potkin. So must be the perfect person to be in Team Nepo right now. We did have a few moves. Even some trades. Yep,
a quick flurry of moves, and all as predicted. So Jovanka was correct in her prediction that White in this position did recapture in the centre with a pawn. It's the most logical, it's the most classical way of approaching the position, just establishing this pawn duo in the centre. And Magnus, as mentioned, he cannot leave too many pieces on the board. He will simply get cramped. He will simply get smothered later on. So he traded off the bishops, compensating for the lack of space by trading, and now he brought his knight to the side, as expected, attacking this pawn. And this is the current position. Jan Nepomniachtchi needs to deal with the attack. There are a few ways to protect this pawn. Either you can step back with your bishop. This looks a bit counterintuitive. You do open up a defense here, however, and maybe you can plant your bishop on this square later on. But I think the most natural would be to just step back with the white queen, defending this pawn, but also creating a counterattack against this black pawn. And at this moment, I mentioned that the most natural here for black would be probably to try and push and to try and completely obliterate the centre, eliminate all the pawns. But Jovanka, you mentioned to me that there's a lot of play left here still.
Yeah, I definitely think so. But for instance, in this move, in this position, White has the kind of quite radical-looking move, which is just to push the pawn to e5. Mm-hmm. So the whole idea is that black takes pawn, White simply go pawn takes pawn, the c pawn that is, and suddenly there is a protected passed pawn on the board. Yeah,
it will march forward later, but as you mentioned as well, if black gives you time, White's going to push this pawn and really clamp down. So if black just moves, for example, around a move, then yeah, this pawn duo is going to be a real nightmare to deal with for the rest of the game. All endgames now would just be winning for White, just because of these pawns. So, yeah, I mean, if we end up in a situation like this one, if White gets one move, he's doing great, but Magnus will have to be very energetic to hold the balance. Maybe he can reroute his knight back where it came from later on, just to block this pawn. This would appeal to me, but either way, it feels like White has a small advantage here. So, OK, this is the move we're expecting from Jan. Any other options? Jon Christian, any thoughts here? Do you like this transition, the trades of the pawns and the bishops? Who do you think it favours?
I'm not sure, to be honest, who this favors. It changes the position for sure. Suddenly there's not so much symmetry anymore. But I kind of like your suggestion with bishop d2 to c3. That seems a bit more sharp to me, to be honest. And I think that Nepo needs to play a bit sharp and try and keep complications and complexity in the position, and I feel like this is maybe a way to do so.
Yeah, so these two moves would be sensible. I'm wondering whether there are options, maybe jumping in with the white queen, although you might get kicked back at some point. Sorry, in this position, if you jump in, you might get kicked back by the black knight. So, yeah, not too many options for Nepomniachtchi. Most likely, I think this queen move just feels more natural somehow, but also the bishop retreat, just to keep this pawn defended and Magnus will be trying to chip away, trying to erode this guy, especially if he wants to equalise.
Is rook a7 a move, potentially?
Possibly as well, yep. So giving up the central pawn for this guy, and I'm not 100% sure who this favours, this trade. White's centre has disappeared, the pawn centre, but still, this bishop asleep, White's pieces kind of holding everything together. Black's pawns are maybe weaker than White's pawns. Yeah, interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, lots of options for the Russian.
Cool. He is thinking. Let's head back down to the good knight. Simon, what do you think of John Christian's new sleek, moustache-free look now?
I thought it was very impressive. You shaved him in the studio. That was I did not expect that. So congratulations. Quite weird TV, but maybe not as weird as what I was doing. But anyway, we are down again. The good night, and we're just going to speak to the lovely barmaid Rebecca. So, what did you think of Magnus's win yesterday? Were you happy?
Yes. I think it was like one of the greatest games I've ever seen at least in a World Championship match. The whole place was, like, we held our breath when the time trouble was on, and everybody was just like, oh, when the 40th move was reached, and the place erupted in applause when the game was over. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So the atmosphere here was pretty amazing, yeah?
It was amazing. It was seven hours for people sitting here and just like, I don't know, yeah, it was like collective delirium and fun, I think, for everyone here, yeah.
Well, hopefully we get the same again today, yes. So brilliant. All right, so we're rooting for Magnus. Thank you very much. And we're just going to go now see the Norwegian number 2, and we're going to get his view on what he thinks about the position. So we're going to go into a little secret room here, and we're coming in, and you can see it's pretty busy. And we're going to now, I'm sorry, I know this is Norwegian speaking room, but we're just doing something for Chess 24, and we're going to try to make our way through to the front. And we'll wriggle our way in. So, hey, how you doing, man? Are you good?
I'm doing great. How are you?
We're good. And you were on the show, obviously, the Chess 24 show earlier on. I mean, what do you think of the position so far? Do you think it's okay for Magnus, or...?
I think that Jan has a bit more space and he's trying to put pressure. But the last few moves, it seems like Magnus is looking confident. He took on b3. That bishop on b3 was pretty strong. And now knight to g6, putting pressure on e4. I think Magnus should be okay.
Should be okay. So,
yeah.
So you think maybe a draw?
Yeah, I think that could happen. Yeah, a draw. Jan will definitely try to put some pressure, but I can't really see how he's gonna do it because now he's threatening the pawn on e4, and maybe Black can also follow up with c5.
Okay. Brilliant. And is this like a dream job? You're like everyone seems very happy here.
For sure. Yeah, it's very nice that so many people are here. I didn't expect it.
Yeah. So is everyone enjoying themselves? Yeah. Should we say cheers or skull? Skull? Look at that! That's brilliant. So we've got
good vibes.
Good vibes. We've got some great vibes here, and we've got an incredibly strong chess player as well, going over the moves in Norwegian. So we're kind of obviously we can't really be Jan fans here. This is like if we have to basically back Magnus. Yeah. Is anyone a Jan fan here? It's gone very quiet. So anyone want Magnus to win, maybe? Yeah. There we go. Good stuff. So we'll go back to the studio. There's a lot of Magnus fans here, and we're thinking now he might be getting nearer a draw. And what a good vibe is going on here. So good stuff. And back to you in the studio.
Fantastic. Thank you, Simon. And stick to the beer. OP. Okay?
I will do. Yeah, brilliant.
Good. All right, fantastic to get the vibe from the good knight. I love that classical chessboard that Arjan is sort of demonstrating on. It reminds me of Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, the demo boards, and throughout my youth, I'm sure you guys as well, they had this, it was all on the demo board. It was no technology at all. You just had to manually put everything in, and yeah, it gives me good flashbacks seeing boards like that one. And also just the way they were sitting, it just reminds me of when I was learning chess, just sitting, watching these great players lecture, and you learn a lot that way.
Yeah, I actually saw a tweet just talking about Queen's Gambit, a tweet yesterday. I think it was from Olympio, the chess historian, that the game yesterday lasted longer than the entire Queen's Gambit series.
Wow.
That's a long game.
I think that's a sign that we should all go and binge this series again on the rest day, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you a big Queen's Gambit fan?
Yeah, I did watch it, and it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all chess players, but there's been some criticism of very small aspects, but basically the chess world loves that series, right?
Yeah, I think we were pleasantly surprised, actually. It's refreshing to see a show that actually puts the chess first, that actually does the chess well, that actually I mean, that we can associate with in a way. Usually chess is done in a bit of a stereotypical way, and it definitely brought down a lot of those stereotypes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, for me it was the first time where we didn't have like a geek fest.
Yeah.
You know, she was a cool person. Yeah, she had some troubles, but she wore stylish clothes, and a lot of people wanted to be like her and to be surrounded by her community, and I like that. And rather than your whole kind of stereotypical exercise the fingers. Sorry.
Yeah, and also it brings a lot of like the team aspect into chess as well. It, brings up how the Russian team is doing so great, and it's first when Beth Harmon starts working with the other American players that she really, really thrives.
Yeah. Also, there's always a scary Russian at the end of the path, right? And that's Jan Nepomniachtchi in this case.
Exactly.
Magnus Carlsen.
A scary and a very nice and humble Russian.
Yes.
It seems
scary
he's maybe,
in terms of chess ability, I should say.
It seems he's kind of portrait of Boris Spassky, for example, that we talked about yesterday, who was, of course, the big rival to Bobby Fischer, but known as a very, very nice guy, basically.
Yeah, in fact, it's actually the other way. If Bobby Fischer was pretty controversial. Even then, he was quite difficult to deal with, and he had all sorts of complaints. Like he complained about the noise, and he complained about buzzing, and he even got the match transferred to the broom cupboard. And Boris Spassky, ever the gentleman, said yes, even though the Soviet authorities were saying, don't pander to these ridiculous accusations, don't pander to his requests. Just, but he was like, no, I want to play chess.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that chess is the only winner. And, but yeah, what can I say?
Yeah.
Great guy.
Chess is the winner, like yesterday.
Indeed, and yeah, I met Spassky when I was 9, and so inspiring. I don't have many chess pictures around my flat, at home, but one of the few ones I have is with Spassky. Such an inspiration, and of course, many beautiful chess games, and just a great person.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the same for both of these two as well. So, okay, right now, Nepomniachtchi still thinking, quite a long, deep thought. 11 minutes now in the tank, and facial expression from Nepomniachtchi shows he's not entirely happy. Arian Tari there said that he's confident Magnus will guide this towards a draw. And the more I look at it, the more I think it's going to be difficult to maintain the tension. I'm not sure there's enough pieces left to justify White having an advantage here, even though he has this beautiful pawn center at the moment.
All right. Well, you guys, you might be watching us on chess24.com. Or you might be watching us on YouTube, and do subscribe to the Chess24 YouTube channel. There is a lot of cool content coming out there every day. And of course, you can also join in on the chat on YouTube while watching live. So we do encourage everyone to subscribe to the Chess24 YouTube channel. And now we're going to head down to Dubai. Do you know what's going on at the Dubai Expo around the playing menu?
Well, what's going on is a matter of aesthetics. Here with us again, we have the fashion icon, Magnus Bastard. I'm saying that in Danish because the Norwegian is too hard for me. But you got a look here today. What does this represent?
First and foremost, we're going a bit darker today because Magnus is playing in the dark pieces, so we left the light and white clothes at home. Yeah, we're going for a little bit darker mix. We have the bull here, which is one of Magnus's favorite expressions. If you mess with the bull, you get the horns. He says that all the time. So that's why we got that after a win. The jacket is by other team member of Magnus. It's the same jacket as Bjørn Nesse uses. He's an older, very, very stylish guy, so I tried to take a little bit from him. And a little bit of color since we're in the sun. That's the look today.
Okay, and you, of course, maybe had a very big day to celebrate yesterday with the win. What was that like?
I would say the win was crazy, but Magnus is a true professional. He is not celebrating anything before maybe the title is secured. No celebration. Happy after the game, obviously, but yeah, still waiting for the big one.
Well, thank you very much for the link between fashion and chess, and also an insight into the true professionalism of the world champion, Magnus Carlsen. Thank you very much, and back to you guys.
Dream team down in Dubai, Rune and Magnus Barstad. Love those fashion tips coming from Dubai every single day. Always clever thought behind it. Is that how you work every day as well, David?
No, I just find the only shirts that are clean and then I wear them. No, I mean, yeah, I was just thinking as well how to differentiate between the Magnuses, and that's Magnus B. We have Magnus C as well, playing the World Championship match, a bit like the Spice Girls.
Yeah. I love it. Magnus B and Magnus C. Very cool.
Actually, chess players put a lot of thought into their clothing.
Really?
Yeah. This one was telling a little bit of a porky when he said the only clean. No, you think about the colours, you think about your previous occasions when you've worn those clothes, whether they brought you luck. Yeah.
Gotta think about the chest socks.
Let's see. Oh, yes.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to kick you.
I'm good.
Think about everything.
Yeah.
Have you been wearing those every day?
No, only when I predict a draw, then I wear the checkered socks because it has white on and black on them. If I predict a white win, then I wear white socks. If black win, black socks. That's the key.
Oh, you are the genius.
Wow.
David Howell.
Biggest nerd ever.
Dedication.
Yeah, definitely. And you did say at the start of the day you regretted not wearing a waistcoat, seeing as John Christian was wearing one.
Yeah, if I'd known, we could have been the waistcoat bros. Who needs the chest bras when you got the waistcoat bras?
Exactly.
Next time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jan Nepomniachtchi, 15 minutes, no waistcoat, no jacket, white shirt, white pieces. What is he thinking about?
I think he's just struggling to come up with an antidote to Magnus's plan. And Arian touched on it. We've touched upon it as well. In the current position, there's a big threat that first Nepomniachtchi has to deal with. But against nearly no matter any move that White chooses, I think Magnus's reply is going to be pushing this pawn forward. Firstly, to stop this pawn becoming a backward pawn, but also he just wants to push on the side he's stronger. Normally, when you have a pawn majority, here you have a 3 versus 2 on the queen side. That's the side you should be pushing on. And, for example, if the bishop drops back to defend this pawn, Magnus is going to push. And either he will take a pawn in the centre and clear things up, clear up the tension, or if White pushes forward, he will later at least have a pawn majority, some very strong pawns. Likewise, if I think Jon Christian's suggestion, if the rook moves forward, the more I think about it, the more I'm the more I'm reluctant to take this pawn in the centre. Maybe you just push forward anyway. And again, tension in the centre and still some pressure on this pawn. At the very least, you'll be able to push this guy and kick away the white queen. And the third option that we mentioned, maybe the most likely, or the first choice, the most kind of intuitive move, dropping the queen back, would also run into this pawn push. And I have maybe an antidote solution to Jovanka's suggestion of pushing this pawn now. Maybe you just move the queen. Maybe you don't need to capture, allowing White to create this very powerful passed pawn. Maybe you just maintain the tension. I'm not exactly sure where the queen goes, but possibly it goes back the whole way. And the justification would be that, for example, if this pawn captures in the centre, now you take the white pawn, and then next move, everything disappears. These pawns would all get traded, and complete symmetry, most likely a draw with level material. And if White takes the other way, then after a couple of trades, White's bishop taking. Now, I think you can win back this pawn in a couple of different ways, but, for example, you can pin. You don't win, but after White protects this bishop, for example, this bishop which can't move, then Black can now just take in the centre. And again, level material, level pawns, level pieces should just be fizzling out. So unless Jan Nepomniachtchi in the current position can come up with something a bit special, I think that this move from Magnus will solve all of his problems and maybe guide the game towards a draw.
Okay.
Have I missed anything there, guys? I mean, I'm struggling to find any ideas for White here that even put a little bit of pressure on, to be honest.
No, I just checking the computer analysis. It's actually gone for not retreating the queen to defend the pawn, but another idea, which is just basically to move the rook along to the C1 square.
Okay, which rook? This rook, I guess.
The A rook.
Okay, not that rook. Okay. What has he gone for? Oh, just as you say that, he chose the other rook. That's the biggest question in chess, which rook to use, because here there's a big question. Do you maintain your rook in the centre where it can support this pawn, but it is a bit blocked at the moment, or do you push this rook across, but then you lose access to this beautiful open line? And he's chosen the former option, just bringing the rook across. So this guy has been abandoned, but he's going after this pawn.
But, I mean, is there going to be something against the C5 break?
Yeah, so I think This one probably not attractive for black because now this rook gets super active, hitting this pawn maybe, and white's about to team up both rooks on the 7th rank. So as you mentioned, the c5 break, most likely. I think we'll see Magnus play that quite quickly. And now if we do see a trade of pawns, what could Nepomniachtchi's idea be? Because if he just takes this with his bishop, surely black can just capture it in the center. And the pawns are disappearing. Not that much material left, especially if the bishops disappear as well. Black can recapture in a variety of ways, but I don't envisage any problems here at all for black.
Can you maybe, instead of trading off bishops, just try to round up, just gang up on that weak B pawn, yeah?
How do you do that?
Yeah, that is
Maybe,
the question.
Maybe this sneaky move again.
Yeah.
Just to try and hit this rook, which does indeed guard this pawn. And if the rook moves forward, maybe you could try some kind of sneaky double attack. I mean, I'm not sure it's that effective, to be honest. You hit the two rooks, but they can defend each other. Maybe this rook just drops back. Some small initiative for white, but either way, Magnus has gone for that. He's heading towards this direction. He's hoping that he can trade off this pawn for this pawn later and get rid of white's pawn center in the meantime. Yeah, it's difficult because now that this rook's moved, how are you actually going to guard this pawn safely? It's not easy anymore.
Yeah, the way Nepo has played here, it makes so that he must take on c5, it seems to me. I mean, d5 is never an option here because, yeah, you just lose the pawn and the rooks are very awkwardly placed. So, yeah, this might actually fizzle out. I think your analysis here are very good. And if Magnus wants to draw, or both players want to draw, I think this game can end in a draw fairly quickly, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, these pawns are all just going to disappear, it feels like. And yeah, Magnus there just wiping his eyes, then leaving the board. He's going to be feeling pretty confident. It's not the type of position you can get excited about or energetic about, but it's the type of position that is inevitable sometimes when two players are playing very, very well.
So if Jan Nepomniachtchi wants to keep playing, keep fighting, what could then be a potential move?
What about the e5 move in this position? Does this make any different from before?
Yeah, this is a good question. This is the only other kind of tempting alternative because now, again, if pawn takes pawn, white has reason to be happy. This guy is very strong, but let's see what happens if black doesn't take this pawn, if black just retreats with the queen, maybe.
Yeah, because the same issue arises that you first take on d4 before, on d6.
If it takes, then black captures, and then next move, this pawn drops. Everything gets eliminated, but the key line is probably this one, pawn takes pawn. Pawn takes pawn, and this guy is weak, so if you do try and take this guy, then black just captures in the center, and unless I'm missing something in this position, it feels like everything's getting traded.
Can you take the knight and play rook d1 and bishop d6?
Okay, so knight takes knight, rook takes...
Ah, no, forget about there's a bishop on f8.
Yeah, so these bishops...
Yes.
These bishops, they'll just neutralize each other.
Yeah, and nothing with rook a7 and then, no.
Yeah. No, I mean, you could flick in this guy. This move to try and crash through on the f7 square, which is always the weakest square in chess, especially in the opening. But it feels like black should be okay. For example, just blocking the queen's diagonal. And yeah, everything's leaving the board. The knights will have left the board, pawns will have disappeared, queens may be disappearing, bishops may be disappearing. And
the players have disappeared from the board as well.
Exactly. Invisible players right now. Yes. And invisible advantage, it looks like, as well, for Nepomniachtchi.
And talking about the players, Connor G asks us to go into depth about the Grandmaster's private engines, because there are many rumours as to how strong they are, but we don't really know so much.
True. A lot of mystery. One thing I know for sure is that they're not using Fritz 1 or Fritz 2 or any... they're not using their kind of pocket stockfish on their phone. They're using very powerful engines. Normally, the main two sources that they do use are stockfish and what we call Leela 0, which is similar to Alpha 0. It's a neural network kind of AI entity, which is maybe more intuitive with humans than stockfish. But stockfish, I will say, again, they're not just going on the browser. They're not just kind of looking at low depth. They'll be looking with super powered processors. So often, for example, on the Chess24 website, if some of you are watching there, you can see Stockfish, and also that valuation bar is powered by Stockfish, but you can see what the depth is. And often the depth will say, okay, depth 27. But you normally want to look past depth 35, depth 40, if you want to really, really trust a position and trust an evaluation. And having worked as a second myself with some really strong players, they've always said, unless you're looking past depth 35, 40, don't trust it. Just don't even look at the evaluation.
Yeah.
And it gives you a general gist, but to get to the real truth, you need to look deeper.
And that depth also, that shows how many moves the computer actually have crunched into the position, right? So if it says depth 27, that will mean it has... is it 27 half moves or moves?
27 half moves.
Half moves, yeah, exactly.
I know for the opening stage, so I'm using 2 databases, and the one that I'm using for the opening stage, that's GChess.
Yeah.
And anything that's been analysed in the opening, it's Stockfish NN, and I can't remember what NN stands for, but it is a cloud engine, and it's like heavily running to the depth past 35.
Yeah, so I mean, there are many engines out there. Normally, the players will use both. Stockfish is better in positions where it's pure calculation, where it's pure tactics, it's moves, it's just bang, 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 bang. If you're looking at a really complicated opening, Stockfish is the best. But Leela, often, it's those kind of long-term strategic pawn sacrifices. It's kind of long-term factors about domination. It's different engines have different strengths, and that's underestimated. I'd recommend going and searching for computer chess, TCEC. There's where...
TCEC.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it stands for. The Computer Engine Championship or something like that? I don't know. I'm just making that up. But TCEC, and it's...
Chess Engine Championship.
There you go.
Yes.
You all sounded plausible.
That's close. And then, I mean, that's where computers face off against each other. And it's really interesting because you can see what each computer says about the position at the same time. And often, for example, Stockfish might say something very different to Komodo or a different engine. They're running on the same depth, the same processes, but one computer thinks, oh, white's winning, plus 2.5. The other one says 0.0. And yeah, I mean, often some are trustworthy, some are not, but that's where the human aspect comes in. You have to put it on a board yourself and see, okay, I trust this engine more, or this one looks like the evaluation, it's at least easier for one side to play. So I think the players and their coaches, they're all armed with engines, of course, but some of them will be tasked with sitting on a board and deciding the practical aspects. Some will be charged with just studying purely.
Do you know who the reigning champion is? Isn't it?
The reigning computer world champion?
Yeah. Not Magnus Carlsen, no.
Not Magnus Carlsen, no. I'm not entirely sure, actually.
Okay, there seems to be many different TCEC kind of competitions, but Stockfish is up there. Komodo Dragon?
Komodo Dragon.
Komodo, yeah.
That is someone that is up there.
Yeah, I think that's linked to, is it Larry Kaufman? An American grandmaster. I love some of his books. Also, I would recommend following accounts such as Matthew Sadler on Twitter, an English grandmaster, because he's always tweeting about these computer matches, and he picks up some really interesting moments, and he knows the nuances. He also wrote this book, Game Changer, about AlphaZero.
He's written a new book, actually.
Yeah,
and I've got it. It's published by New and Chess.
Okay.
And it's talking about how computer games can actually help improve your chess, because sometimes when we look at these computer suggestions, they don't make sense to us. There's a lot of shuffling.
Many times you guys say, oh, that's not human at all.
Exactly. I mean, yesterday there was an amazing resource that Magnus could have played, but it was a computer suggestion. And what Matthew Sadler's book aims to do is take this knowledge and just try to make it accessible so that everybody can understand it. And young Christian, look at that. We've seen that pawn move on the board. So Nepomniachtchi, he's really trying. There's one thing that we've kind of gauged here. The players are not just, the game has finished in a draw. Well, not has finished, but I mean, they've been a lot of fighting draws. But the players have really been trying.
Yeah.
And we can't sit there and say, half-baked attempts.
No.
Really put everything into it. And here we see that kind of move. He's going to go forward, and he's given Magnus the chance to go wrong. Unfortunately, it probably will lead into a position where there's like mass simplification, and the game will probably end up in a draw. But chess, when played perfectly, is a draw.
Yeah. So what is your initial thoughts on this move, John Christian?
Yeah, it was... we looked at it slightly, and it seems to be sort of aggressive, like directly aggressive at least, but once you look a little bit deeper, as we did as well, it seems to be that you just trade off the D and E pawn for the black C and D pawn, and then you get a very, you get a symmetrical pawn structure with symmetrical or the same pieces on the board, and unfortunately, at least for Jan with the white pieces here, that should be a simple draw for Magnus. No luck today to revenge yesterday's loss, I think.
So maybe just one strategic trap in the position, and that's if black does play the most obvious move and plays pawn takes pawn. I don't think Magnus will go for this because it does allow white to install this very strong passed pawn in the position. So, I mean, unless he's hoping that Magnus just enjoys maybe this kingside majority and gets tempted to start pushing pawns, unless this happens, I think Nepomniachtchi will just be neutralized here. And as you mentioned, these guys will all disappear. This little triangle of pawns, this diamond of pawns even. What move were we expecting? Queen back, maybe? Or
Queen can step forward.
Yeah, because if the queen steps back, I was just looking possibly at some point. I mean, we saw some lines where the rook would come across and attack this point in conjunction with the white queen. But if you march forward to the other square with the black queen, then at least you guard the f7 point. And maybe it's, unless there's any big differences that I don't really see right now, this looks like the safer square.
Yeah.
What about if you take on d6 here, and if you take on d4, then knight takes d4, threatens the queen?
Yeah, so here white would gain some time against the queen, maybe have time to pick up this pawn, but I guess Magnus's idea would be to push this guy forward.
Right.
And then to try and take this pawn next.
And now suddenly maybe it's even worse for white.
Exactly. Dream position for Magnus with those two pawns on the left.
Yeah. If you march forward, I guess black can just round up this pawn, for example, with the queen or with the rook. At some point, maybe you can just step back and take this pawn next.
Oh.
And if the queen steps back, this is ideal. You said it's a dream for Magnus because these two are connected and very strong. White has two isolated pawns. And Magnus has indeed gone for this move to the most active square, the f5 square with the queen. And we're expecting probably then this pawn to be captured. If white can't take this without giving Magnus an advantage, next move, bishop takes pawn, then he has to take the other guy. Take on c5. Magnus will definitely take this one back. This is the most dangerous pawn. And if white takes again with his bishop, then we will see knight takes pawn and everything disappearing. Yeah, I predicted 42 moves for this game, I've got to say, and I'm worried we might not get there.
Wow. I predicted more, David, so...
Definitely not 136 today.
I went for 47. I thought 47 is my lucky number, so why not? It's not really.
But
that's a strange lucky number.
I know.
You guessed that before, right?
Exactly, I guessed that yesterday, and we got 136.
So just as an example, the knights will disappear, the bishops will disappear, and just complete equality. Queens and rooks only on the board, and no passed pawns.
But still, they need to find a perpetual, since they can't really offer a draw before move 40. So I guess for you who want to guess how many moves each game will last, then around 40 or 40 plus should be...
it's the safe bet, right?
Yeah, that's the safe bet, exactly.
Yeah, so if they can't offer a draw, most likely they'll just swap off all the pieces and just move the kings up and down and repeat.
Yeah.
Or they'll just wait until move 40 and then someone will offer a draw.
But they very seldom actually offers draws. Yeah, it hasn't happened yet.
Did it happen in one game
here? It happened in one where Magnus was a pawn up. Was that game 2, at the end of game 2?
But other than that, it's been repetition. And a bunch of moves are we seeing that this is...
They don't really offer a draw, they just shake hands.
They just make eye contact.
They do this.
And there you go. We accept.
And we've just zoomed in on Nepomniachtchi there, but a moment ago he started shaking his head. He's looking off to the side, made eye contact with Magnus. He knows that there's not many chances left now. We saw a trade of those pawns. White did take with his bishop, and now all Magnus needs to do is capture in the center with his knight. And I am struggling to come up with any positive ideas there for white. Maybe Magnus will consider trading the bishops first, but I don't think you need to rush with that.
No, I like your suggestion of capturing
Knight takes
the pawn.
pawn.
Knight takes pawn, simple.
That white pawn in the center, it's looking juicy.
Could Magnus try to go for more, for instance? Could he just go, way, come in with my knight to the f4 square?
Time to play for a win with black.
Exactly.
Wow, okay.
I wanted to ask the same question, but the thing is, you're rather playing for a loss, aren't you?
Two very different results.
That's true.
Yeah.
I take your point. It's very fair.
So how are we going to stop this fork? As mentioned, this is the safe move. Should lead to a draw. Knight f4 plays for the loss. Plays for something. I'm not sure what.
Okay, well, should we dig a little?
Well, maybe you actually do play for a win. I don't know. Queen e3.
Yeah. So there is this threat of a knight fork check and winning the rook. And as you mentioned, queen e3. This is clever as well because black's secondary motif might have been to drop the queen back and to go for this square with the black knight. But if the queen comes across now, the black queen cannot really move. It has to protect its knight. And maybe we're running out of ideas.
Yeah. Nice.
Unless the knight can jump in, maybe. Fork?
But the knight is trapped on the c1.
Bishop takes bishop, unfortunately. After knight takes rook, maybe the bishop just drops back. Although this square's available, Jovanka.
Yeah, that's true.
Liking the optimism.
Yeah, I mean, it's going through Magnus's mind. He's frowning, meaning he's not 100% sure.
The rook is hanging, though, so...
I mean, it is totally impractical, though, because he has knight takes pawn, which is easy draw.
Yeah, why bother?
Why stir the pot, you know?
Then again, he is actually thinking here and spending some time. So what is he thinking about? Because knight takes e5 is really obvious, really. And it shouldn't lead to any sort of big complications, at least. So maybe he's just checking for potential alternatives. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, if the match was tied, if it was 3-3, the match score, then maybe he would look for a way to try and win, to try and play on, to try and bring this knight into the game. But, I mean, when you're ahead in the match, when you're black, it makes sense to just eliminate everything. Knight takes pawn, and I don't think white can really play on. I was wondering about the knight coming to the centre, avoiding the trade, attacking the queen, maybe attacking the pawn, but then the black queen can just jump in. Although, maybe the rook can come up, harass this black queen. It looks so clumsy for white, though. It looks so loose. I mean, this kind of construction just feels like something is about to drop. But maybe this is what Magnus is considering. Maybe he thinks there's no way to immediately force the draw.
But again, this is something we mentioned in the beginning of this game, that it is possible for Nepo to overpress, and this is a typical position where the position itself is not really
completely level, yeah.
No. But it's not really. You don't have the advantage to try and go for something extra special or try to find some extra tricks. So if you avoid those drawish lines that just fizzles out, then suddenly you find yourself in a position where you are slightly bit worse, and then Magnus can start again with the same thing that he did yesterday, where he just, I have a little slight edge here. Maybe I can press for a couple of hours and see if you actually crack.
A couple of hours, 5 hours.
Who knows?
But there was some imbalance in the position here. Not so much. Not so much. So, but you never know. Magnus is Magnus. You know, that's why we call him endgame magician.
Yeah. Even if it's not a long game, and as Jan Christian mentioned, if you play for tricks, usually you trick yourself. That's the thing.
Yeah.
If you try to be too creative, too clever, a bit like Nepomniachtchi was doing for maybe a 2-3 move stretch just before move 40 yesterday, then it can backfire. You've just got to be objective and calm and
I can
pragmatic.
definitely relate to that. Trick yourself. All right, Magnus is thinking, will this game be a draw or will he try some tricks? We'll see, but first, let's take a look at your selfies. Timing is perfect. We have the move on the board.
We have the move on the board. It's bishop takes bishop. I think we're about to see a lot more exchanges. The rook will recapture now that Nepomniachtchi has sat down back at the board, and black then will capture the central pawn. So Magnus still going for the same idea that we were indicating, just a different move order. And maybe he feels that this is the quickest, easiest way to force the draw.
And do you think everything will get swapped off, or do you think Nepomniachtchi will actually try to keep some pieces? Like I'm thinking the rooks.
How do you keep the...
So you can maybe go knight takes knight.
Okay, you have to get rid of the knights because black is threatening to move the knight out the way to take the white knight with check, and then the white rook actually is going to fall on the 5th rank. But if you keep the rooks on, I don't think it favours either side, really.
That's true. I mean, black's rook is going to get active, white's rook's going to get active, and then it all falls down to king safety, and the issue of king safety is what holds the position in balance.
Yeah, and I was just reminded there by Jon Christian, guess the move. That's one of our daily segments, but we're running out of time. The players aren't giving us a moment. It's difficult to pick because the tension is starting to slowly dissipate.
So are you saying we should do it now?
I don't know. I don't think we should do it now. Not this moment, but we'll have to try and pick one. Jovanka, Jon Christian, you'll have to help me out here because, right now, Nepomniachtchi, he can force a draw pretty much instantly if he wants to. Okay. He can just trade everything on the e5 square, take that knight with the rook or knight, and everything will disappear. This one accelerated. I mean, it was so full of tension just 6 or 7 moves ago, and suddenly,
fizzled out. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's not gonna be now.
this is starting to look like a position that, yeah, I would say, okay, maybe I could hold this against these players with either color. So, I mean, maybe not, but still.
Well, you're a great chess player.
Maybe.
What is your FIDE rating? Well, like
2200-ish. Yeah,
very good.
strong.
Yeah, come on. Super
Yeah, but I mean, it's true though what he's saying. There's certain positions where the position is so simple, the pawn structure, there's no tension, and the pieces, it's very clear where they're going to go. So basically, most people will be able to hold the position regardless of whether they're playing the world champion or whether they're playing someone the same level as them.
Okay, guys, I think just because there might not be another opportunity, I'm going to call it at this moment. Let's play Guess the Move, because White could take that knight. I was just realised White could also just move the king out of the way. White has a variety of options. And if he does take that knight, which way will he take the knight? With the white rook or with the white knight? Stop it. Let's do it. It's time to Guess the Move. Oh, no, yeah. Guess the Move crisis, commentators first. Commentators first.
Oh no, and now Magnus does another move.
Now the moves are going to just be played instantly, I think, to the end of the game. We're going to have to postpone that challenge, unfortunately.
Maybe we can have 2 Guess the Moves tomorrow instead.
Hey.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's a good call, Kaja.
Okay.
Because right now there's not much to guess. Look at this. The rooks have come off the board and Jan is forcing the draw. I love the music, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rooks are off the board and I missed my shot. My one opportunity to seize everything I ever wanted.
But that means more fun tomorrow. We will do 2 Guess the Moves tomorrow. Yeah. All right. And will this not finish in a few minutes, basically?
I think so.
Yes, any moment now. Remember, they can't offer a draw till move 40, but the rooks have come off, the queens have come off, and now the remaining pawns on that queen side are about to get traded as well.
And you can also see by how quickly the players are playing that the position is fizzling out as quickly as it can. So the pawns are going to be off the board, and how are they going to find the repetition?
Complete symmetry. I think they're just both going to move their kings back and forth or their rooks back and forth. Look at that pawn structure. It couldn't be more symmetrical. And yeah, this one is over. It's just going to be a draw.
Wow.
And I think here we'll see Magnus use the black rook to attack a pawn, and then maybe the white king will step back, and the players will find a way to repeat. And
will it be exactly 100 moves less than yesterday if we get to 36 moves?
It might well be.
Rook c3, such a nice invitation to play king g1, yeah?
A deep exhale of breath there.
It was too deep. Too subtle.
I think Magnus wants to get to 36.
I mean, they could break the world record here. They could, if they hadn't pushed those pawns, they could wait 50 moves, then push a pawn, wait 50 moves, then push another pawn.
Maybe they're waiting until move 40, and then they can actually offer the draw.
Yeah.
Beautiful symmetry with the pawns.
And now with the kings as well.
Oh, here it comes.
Now the
Here's
rooks.
the invitation.
Rooks will just move back and forth, back and forth. And this is where actually playing online, it's difficult. You don't want to pre-move. You don't want to just put your rook on the wrong square because your opponent could guess which square you're going to put your rook, and then they'll capture your rook. But, of course, offline, over the board, there won't be any blunders now.
And now 100 moves less than in the world record game yesterday.
Yeah, and this is the second time we've seen that position with black's king on the g7 square and the white rook on b5, and they'll just repeat once more. I think it's going to be 38 moves. With black's next move, he can indeed claim a draw if he wants to. Will Magnus do that, or will he just play until move 40? Okay, why bother calling the arbiter when you can just play the moves, get to move 40, and they are allowed officially to offer that draw. And here we go, another threefold repetition, both players smiling. Nice touch there.
Yeah. Will they at all discuss this game, or is it not even interesting to them?
I think they'll shrug their shoulders and smile at each other.
42, I guessed 42 moves today.
I did too, Kaja.
And a draw. And a Rui Lopez.
Okay.
Oh, higher. I know.
Have they even agreed yet? Have they shaken hands? We haven't seen that yet.
There we go. Game 7 in Dubai. We're halfway, and it is a draw, but Magnus then still leads with 1 point. He is now on 4 points. Magnus Carlsen, 3 points to go.
That's what before maybe made some sense. Right?
Yeah, I wasn't so sure about b4, c4.
Yeah, but queen 5, maybe. Yeah.
Queen 5
probably in time.
Yeah, I think I'm in time. threatening c5.
Yeah, maybe don't take on f6. I felt somehow knight queen on f6 is a little bit weird. Like,
Yeah.
Lets me like some tempi, but maybe not.
Mood seems good between
Also,
our
I
two.
mean, I thought you should go rook a1 instead of rook e1, yeah? I mean, rook e4, rook c7, okay.
Well, I mean, first of all, you can do the same, yeah? You can do, I think, just the same one, just play c5.
What do you mean, c5, bc?
Some c5.
Yeah, bishop c5?
Ah, I mean here, yeah?
Yeah. No, I have to take on e4, I think. Then rook c7, rook e7, it's not much.
Yeah, should be fine, yeah, because okay, with rook on e1, I thought it's maybe something.
Yeah.
No, I actually missed queen f5, but I thought that maybe it becomes complex, but yeah, it could be interesting if you just take on e5, dc5, e4, and so on.
Yeah.
No, but queen f5, yeah, it's just
over me.
Just kills you.
Friendly analysis between our two players. Learning all about chess history here. I'm understanding that this wouldn't happen in all World Championship matches historically, but these two, great friends as well, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's great that they actually discuss a couple of moves after the game, which is kind of usual in normal tournaments, but maybe not so much in World Championship matches. But nonetheless, they actually, I heard they mentioned here some of the variations that we looked at earlier, with the taking on c7 and so on. So we're not that far off, at least.
Yeah, I think we did pretty well today in terms of our predictions, our guesses, and it shows the players. They just both played very correct chess. That's why it was a draw at the end. They neutralised each other. But if anyone saw more, just judging from that conversation, maybe it was Magnus. Jan did mention he missed a key detail that happened in the game that completely kind of killed the game, that forced the draw. So maybe Jan, slightly more disappointed of the two.
But do you think this is what they both went for in this game? A quite quick draw after the super long.
No, I don't really think so. I mean, every draw from now on and out should favor Magnus, as he is a game up, and yes, exactly. Especially with when Nepomniachtchi is playing with the white pieces, he should play for the win, and I think he was hoping for more a game that would turn out as game 5 went.
Right, and we've now passed the halfway mark.
That's true. 7 games remain.
7 games already, yeah. So, okay, and tomorrow Magnus will have the white pieces. So this is great news for Magnus, and you can see the frustration there from Nepomniachtchi there, because he kind of, yes, he kind of was very nice that he analysed, but I could sense that he was like, oof, wanted more from the position. He wants more from the openings.
Yeah, Magnus now at 4 points. That means he needs 3.5 points to be the winner of the match. For Jan Nepomniachtchi, it's 4.5 points to be the winner of this match. And Tanya is getting ready to interview Magnus. Let's head to Dubai.
Magnus, after a dramatic game 6, satisfied with the way things went today?
Yeah, it was fine. It was kind of the usual that he was a little bit better, and I had to gradually equalize. And I think I did that okay. Probably his only chance there at the end was to play rook a to c1 instead of rook e to c1, and then trade e7, e4 for c7. And I thought he was a little bit better, but very, very little and unrealistic that he can play for win. I thought I'd gradually equalized there as well.
Was energy a factor today?
Yeah, I couldn't really sleep yesterday. was way too excited. So, but all the way today, I was thinking like I'm tired, but it's probably a lot worse for him.
And you're sticking to your opening strategy with the black pieces. What's not broken, why fix it seems to be the approach?
Yeah, it's not like the positions I'm getting are lovely, but I seem to be able to extricate myself, and they seem to be fairly common sense. So in that sense, it's working okay. Yeah, the games obviously aren't very exciting when I'm playing black.
Are you expecting Jan to go sharper with his next white?
Yeah, I kind of expected him to play a bit carefully again today, seeing as you don't want to tilt after a game like yesterday. But yeah, I don't know if it's going to change very soon, but at some point, obviously, it has to.
Thanks.
Yes, he seems happy with the draw today and a short day after the very long day yesterday. I bet someone who's not very happy it is a short day is the fans down at the Goodnight pub. Simon, are you disappointed down there that there's not going to be more chess entertaining from Dubai today?
Yeah, it's a little bit disappointing. I really don't know how I'm going to spend the rest of my day. It's a very tricky decision, but I think most people here are really looking forward to a very exciting game. It's getting really packed here now. As you can see, there's lots of people coming into the place, and we're just going to go back into the main room and just have a look. There's loads of stuff going on here. This is where the Norwegian commentary was, and maybe we can get a couple of people's comments on what happened. So, hello everyone. Hope you're all doing all right. So let's ask, who wants to be on camera? Anyone put their hand in the air? Okay, otherwise, okay, here we go. So, introduce yourself, sir.
Eirik is my name.
And what did you think of today's game?
I think Magnus did really well because I think Nepo really had any great chances. But it was a bit boring to watch, but I mean, we can't complain.
So how are you going to spend the rest of your day now? Are you going to go home, look at the game, maybe study it on G-Chess, the best platform I hear ever? Or, I don't know, someone told me that. I don't know who that was. Or are you going to stay here and have a coffee?
I think a beer and some hand and brain chess is the plan.
Brilliant.
It's a good plan.
And we do have Norwegian's #2 at the back there, world champion. And, OK, I know we haven't got a mic, but you can shout out good or bad today?
Good for sure. Draw with black is always good, especially when you're leading.
OK, all right.
Psychologically, Magnus is doing so
okay.
It's hard for you.
I should have given you the microphone, but I don't know. I'm forgetting things at the moment. So, yeah. But it's good. Well, okay. Well, it's a little bit of a pity that the game ended so soon. But by the looks of things here, there's going to be loads of chess played, a bit of hand and brain, a bit of blitz. I've got a couple of grandmasters to take down. Maybe that chap over there, or he's going to take me down. We'll see. We'll see if he's ready for the ginger onslaught. And back to you guys in the studio. I hope to see you all down here very soon. And yeah, thanks for putting me here.
Yeah, save us a table, Simon. David definitely wants to come down.
I will do.
I might pop down.
Okay. We'll see you all there definitely soon, hopefully. So, yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, Simon, and enjoy your beer now. Fantastic to have Simon at the good night. He seems to be right at home. And, yeah, and hand and brain. I mean, you're at the good night a lot, Christian. How much hand and brain is going on down there?
Well, there is a lot of hand and brain. I really like the concept. It gives it some variety if you are, even though the players are not very equally matched. Yeah. So yeah,
maybe we should explain the format as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, hand and brain is just you work as a team in pairs, and one is the brain.
Usually the best player.
Usually, although you can swap and mix and match.
Yeah.
And then you just say the piece. For example, you say knight, and then the hand has to choose which knight to move and where to move it to. And yeah, I've seen a lot of arguments involved from hand and brain, but also a lot of love. And yeah, it's a different variant of chess, and we're all fully in support of anything that gets players loving chess.
Oh, yeah, hand and brain. So much fun. All right, we're also going to head to Dubai. What are reactions at the playing venue, Tanya, after a quite quick draw today?
Prepare anything?
I think after yesterday, everyone needed a little rest, including the two players, and that's the chess that we saw today. I've got with me Grandmaster Alexander Sholovic. Alex, what do you think about today's game? Very different from what we witnessed yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I think the players needed rest. They finished at, 2 a.m. yesterday, and, well, no time to sleep, no time to prepare, nothing. And I think, as I said earlier, I think Nepo was just following his strategy to calm down, to get some rest, stabilize. Okay, draw is fine, the match is still on, he will have chances.
Magnus actually mentioned that even though he won the game, he got very little sleep. Must have been even more difficult for Nepo.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. I mean, at least when you win, if it's a long game, you're tired, but at least you win. It gives you positive emotions, you know? And when you lose, you don't want to spend the night like that.
but also great stuff by Jan, just calming himself down, stopped the bleeding from what happened yesterday. And the world champion mentioned that the strategy of not going on a tilt after game 6 is what Jan had in mind and what he was expecting.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I agree. I mean, and that was the sensible thing to do. I mean, imagine if he had lost today, match over. But now he keeps the tension going. He will have his chances. He's patient. Time will come.
And with an early day in the office today, what can we expect from the world champion and the challenger in game 8?
This is actually what I was asking myself too, because I was thinking, is he going to press? How much risk is he going to assume? Because both of them understand that another win for Magnus, it's match over. And how hard is he going to press? And how counter-attacking would Nepo be? So these are questions. For now, I could not come to any logical conclusions just yet. So I guess we'll have to see the opening tomorrow and we'll talk about it again.
Thank you so much, Alexander. There we have it. Tomorrow, a big day for the challenger. He needs to make sure that nothing goes too wrong. Magnus Carlsen starts with the white pieces. And if Jan Nepomniachtchi manages to keep it under control tomorrow, after the rest day, Jan gets white. And I think that's the one where he'll be looking at striking, regrouped, refreshed, and ready with some great prep. Back to you guys in the studio.
Sounds great. Sounds like a good plan for day 8 coming tomorrow. Magnus will have the white pieces. But before we start talking about that, David, we should, of course, look at this game, game 7. And there were some talk between the two players after the game. They mentioned some moments.
Yeah, I just want to highlight one special moment, maybe not necessarily the crucial moment, but one moment that Jan Nepomniachtchi mentioned he missed something, and the one that Magnus alluded to in his interview with Tanya. He expected in this position, actually, white to use the other rook. Jovanka called this. She thought bringing the other rook to the square, attacking the pawn, was the most accurate. Instead, Jan, of course, brought his rook across, but this meant that later on, his pawn in the centre would fall. And Magnus said to Jan, why didn't you play this? It was the best chance to keep some tension. It was the best opportunity. And Jan here replied with a mistake. He said, oh, but you do the same. You push this pawn, but it's definitely not the same this time, because after a set of trades, white's bishop can capture this pawn, and black cannot do the same as he did in the game. This pawn now is taboo. It's poisoned. It is simply protected by the white rook. And here, white would be a pawn up with great winning chances. So after this move, Magnus mentioned, OK, it's not that big a deal. It's going to be different from the game. All the pieces will remain on the board. But after I take this pawn, after you take my pawn, I'm going to challenge for the 7th rank by simply retreating the black rook. And Magnus just shrugged his shoulders. He said, OK, it's probably equal. And the game goes on. I think, however, Jan will look back on this as a small missed opportunity to at least apply some pressure. For example, white could bring the rook across to defend his other rook. He could slide his rook back 1 square, and Magnus would still have a lot of work to do to force the draw. Only white can be better. And, yeah, maybe Jan will be regretting at least not applying a bit more pressure than he did in the game.
All right. A draw in game 7. We are halfway through the World Championship match 2021. 7 games remain. Now we're waiting for the press conference to hear from both of the players. But first, a quick commercial break.
Today, more than ever, when the world comes together to create a better tomorrow.
It's going to be magic.
Oh, La magie. Magic. Magic with music.
With architecture.
With colors.
Magic with celebration.
With your safety.
From here.
There.
And everywhere.
For 6 whole months, day and night.
Join the making of a new world, starting October 1st. Up my rocket, but follow me, I'm ahead of the game. I'm ahead of the game. I'm only ever slinging, I'm working overtime. Got a song and I'm the singer, the melody, the vibe. I'm a prodigy, logically, I'm impossibly wanted. Then they'll remember my name. They'll remember my name. Ooh.
This is John. John loves to study chess. This is David. David loves to study chess as well, but efficiently. John spends more time setting up the board and figuring out what's on the page of his book than he gets to study. David likes to take it easy and use his time wisely. David has finished his exercise for today. John should try the same.
Okay, so let's send a challenge.
Here is challenging. Nice graphics, easy to see. What are you thinking about? You're looking how it can be the most painful?
Exactly. Okay, fine.
That I give him up a phone. He wants to be even rude.
Now anyone can learn and improve their chess skills with the world champion, Magnus Carlsen. The Magnus Trainer app is packed with fun mini-games and interactive training content. Playable anytime, anywhere. Get the Magnus Trainer, available in the App Store and Google Play.
Welcome back, everyone, to Chess24 Global. It's an early day today. We spent 8.5 hours in the studio yesterday. Today's game only lasted for, 2.5 hours-ish? Yeah, big difference. We are waiting for the press conference to start in Dubai. Let's take a look at the results so far in the World Championship match. After 5 draws between the two players, Game 6 yesterday ended with a dramatic win for the world champion. With a draw today, Nepomniachtchi is at 3 points, Magnus Carlsen 4 points. It is the first player to reach 7.5 points that will be announced. The world champion. 7 games remain. How should we sum it up so far, Jovanka, after halfway through the World Championship match?
It's been an intense ride, I have to say. I mean, especially yesterday's dramatic Game 6. And today was the calm after the storm. Once again, Nepomniachtchi tried to break down Magnus Carlsen's rock-solid defense. He just didn't make it. But tomorrow, well, anything's go.
Exactly. Magnus with the white pieces in Game 8 and in Team Offerspill that you are the general manager of, that Magnus Carlsen is a team member of. Are you guys nervous at all for the last half of the World Championship match, or are you feeling confident now?
Feeling more confident after yesterday's win, I gotta say, for sure. So a little bit of a rocky start, maybe, where Magnus was in trouble in a couple of games, but managed to hold on. And now with a win, I think he will cruise in, perhaps. I hope so, at least.
Okay, nice predictions there. Well, Game 8, David. Magnus with the white pieces. Do you think more of what we saw yesterday, or solid, safe?
Yeah, a big game, big question as well. What and how should Magnus approach the game?
Yeah.
Personally, I would advise to do more of the same if he can, but of course having one hand on the brake just in case it starts to get out of hand, out of control. With white, however, you can get that type of position where if things do start to go wrong, you can just kill the game, you can just force the draw, and I think that's what Magnus will aim for. I don't think we'll see him force a quick draw. I don't think we'll see him go all out on the attack, but something in between.
Yeah, because will he remember that he was actually in big trouble leading up to move 40 yesterday?
Definitely remember that, and we've seen how well prepared Nepomniachtchi is in the openings. If Magnus isn't able to achieve his type of position from the openings, I think we might see him pull the handbrake.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys are watching right now on YouTube or on Chess24, but we do want to advise everyone to subscribe to the Chess24 YouTube channel. You'll get exclusive content. You can watch live shows almost every day, and every day also in the World Championship match. David has a favorite moment from today's game, an analysis, which is really cool.
Yeah, especially yesterday. It was hard to pick one favorite moment from 136 moves, but yeah, I've been having a lot of fun making those videos.
Bunch of content on there, and also prediction challenge. this is a very cool moment to talk about the Magnus Nepo prediction challenge. Ooh, we'll keep the suspense because it looks like the press conference will be starting very shortly when Magnus Carlsen arrives. And look at that, you can also now get 40% off Chess24 Premium using the code that you see in the bottom of the screen. And then Maurice actually leaves as well. Nepomniachtchi, he has to wait with a little smile on his face. Here comes the world champion. Let's head down to Dubai.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the press conference post-game. I would request of the photographers who have not been here to follow the basic protocols, which is to make sure that you are not blocking anyone in the front nor blocking the cameras in the back. You may take pictures from the sides of the room, and the reporters who have been here only for the first time as well. Make sure that you ask your questions to the microphones on the sides, and do not touch the microphones, and please make sure that you wear your mask at all times as you ask questions, or all times while you're in the room. I'll begin the questions first for you, Jan. Yesterday's game we know was quite long and a difficult one for you. What was your strategy coming into today's game?
Basically, it was the same as for for other games with white colors. Just try to pull something out to the opening. So, I mean, in general, I think, roughly speaking, white had quite slight advantage, but once again, in these symmetrical structures, even despite, let's say, I had the control over a file, it's like very small, and I guess it was like a nice a nice line like this: bishop b3, and with the idea of c5 here, just simplifying the position, and maybe rook to c1 was slightly more a worthy try, but I guess more or less the same, just closer to equality.
Was yesterday's game have any impact on your choice of opening today?
Absolutely not. Also, by the way, it was quite a new experience to play 2 games at the same day. I somehow I thought that at the World Championship match level it should be like a little bit different, other in some open tournaments, but once we start that late, it suddenly backfires and ending like after dark.
The first half of the match is over. Your feeling about how it's gone so far?
It's not going too well because in general I guess I had quite some promising positions, and I believe also yesterday was some kind of eclipse which prevented me from grabbing b4 pawn twice in a row. But yesterday's game was just kind of poor from both sides, I believe, especially during the time trouble. But otherwise, I think it's pretty much sensible, and it's very much fighting.
May I ask you, Magnus, after yesterday's huge fight, today's result, just what the doctor ordered?
Yeah, it's okay. I obviously remembered my first match against Vichy, where I broke through and won the 5th game, and then I managed to sort of gradually equalize with Black in the 6th, and eventually win. So I was like slightly hoping that we could follow a similar scenario, but a draw is obviously a very nice result as well.
Any concerns from the opening today?
No, it was the usual. So obviously white is a tiny bit better, but as long as you cannot see a clear way to increase the advantage, it's usually going to evaporate.
We've had 7 games. The first half is over. How would you evaluate the state of the match at the moment?
No, obviously it's with yesterday's result, it's going pretty well. But it's a long way to go. Half the match still, but I've made my breakthrough, so the state is good.
May I ask the reporters to begin the questions? We'll begin that phase, and please go ahead.
Hello, a question for Mr. Jan Nepomniachtchi. You say yourself that you put yourself in good positions, and today you played with white. Was this a missed chance?
Today was surely no missed chances, I think, for any of us. It was a very, very balanced game, and I believe it was just boring.
You have still more 7 games to do it. You're 1 point under. When are you gonna attack?
Well, when time comes.
MyClientChess.com. My question is for Magnus. Magnus, I'm going to guess that when you turned your phone on yesterday, you had a slew of congratulations. Are there any that you'd like to share, the message or some prominent person?
No, I'll keep the gossip to a minimum.
Ole Kristianström, VG Norway. Quite similar question to Magnus. I guess Borussia Dortmund, Bayern München is your first choice tonight. So what does Erling Braut Haaland and you have in common?
I think we're both relentless when we get the chance. But yeah, that's high on my to-do list after the game towards that one.
Owner from Chess24, question for Ian. What is it you're doing in the back room?
Sitting on sofa basically and watching, the screen. So, it reminds me of playing during the quarantine times. Yeah, it's very similar. You sit in front of your screen and you try to think. So maybe it's even more familiar right now than, playing regularly out of the board.
Because of the pandemic and playing so much online?
Yeah, it became already at some point a habit.
Okay, thank you.
Nicholas from Aftenposten. I have a question for Magnus. The United Arab Emirates is often criticized for its human rights records. Did you have any concerns before agreeing to play the match here?
Yeah, that's a tough question. No comment.
MyClientChess.com again. This question is from our community, and I'm going to direct it to Jan. Jan, you're at the pinnacle of a chess player's career, playing for the World Championship. But is this process fun for you?
I believe depends on the result. So once I win, it will be fun. Once not, then okay, obviously no fun at all.
Saravanan from ChessBase. Magnus, the question is for you. Today in the opening, you seem to be taking an unusually large amounts of time between the 11th and 16th moves, almost about more than 45 minutes. What happened? Was it anything to do with the preparation, remembrance, or the position?
I was just trying to choose the way that I play, and there are some subtle differences between the choices. So that was it. But in general, I felt that it's a position where it's quite static, and there's not that much to fear.
Was it a matter of choice, choosing something, or was it a matter of remembrance? What was it?
A bit of both.
Thank you. Question for you, Jan, if you don't mind my asking. Did you manage to get a good sleep after the previous game?
Well, obviously, since I came back to hotel like a few hours later than usual, obviously it was less sleep than normally. But in general, once you are that tired, of course, you sleep well.
Thank you.
So, Jan, I'd like to ask you sort of about the opening, and before the match, would you say that the marshal was something you were expecting?
What a cool press conference from Dubai. Both players seem to be in a good mood, and Jan Nepomniachtchi, I especially like sort of his answer to, are you having fun? I will only have fun if I win this. It seems he's still mentally very much in the match, very much ready to fight back.
Yeah, I mean, after all, he's just 1 point behind, so it's not that big of a deal, you know. So he has plenty of opportunity to strike. And I liked his answer where he said very honestly what he did in the back room. You know, that he just sat on the sofa and watched the screen.
We've been dying to know that. Yeah,
exactly. And it's interesting, you know, that he prefers to look at the board in a 2D version as opposed to the 3D version.
Yeah, wow, the new world.
Yeah, and I think it's also very positive for Nepomniachtchi fans that he seems calm, he seems in control of his emotions, especially after yesterday's roller coaster. He's going to need to continue that. He's going to need to just avoid any emotional distress, any emotional ups and downs for the rest of the match if he wants to win this. But he's looking focused, and I think tomorrow is going to be the key in terms of the overall outcome of this match.
And Jon Christian Magnus, in his usual witty self, you know, he has a fun answer to the question about himself and fellow Norwegian Erling Haaland. What is the comparisons? Are you feeling calm after seeing Magnus and his mood? Is this Magnus when he usually is at his best?
Yeah, I actually think so. It seems to me that he's in control of the situation, and he knows that he's in control, and that's something that's good to watch, and makes me positive for the outcome of the match.
Yeah, 7 games to go, and someone else who is at their best, Mr. David Howell, in the Magnus Nepo Prediction Challenge. You are now in 5th place worldwide.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Today I got the right result, the right opening, but I was 1 move off the final move count. So, yeah, long way to go, though. We're only at the halfway stage. I just want to make sure that Simon doesn't catch me. That's my only goal in the prediction challenge this year.
Okay, I think you're actually doing quite good in that regard. Let me check the Chess24 Global Studio. Yeah, Ginger GM, he's at 35 points right now.
Yeah, and I'm sure all of our viewers, hopefully they've been taking part and having fun in that challenge as well.
Definitely.
I'm sure a few of them will overtake me before the end.
Yeah, and leave your predictions. Game 8 coming up tomorrow. So another game to go before the rest day. Magnus Carlsen will have the white pieces tomorrow. Let's take a look at the time schedule. Yeah, of course. We are very happy that we have viewers all over the world. If you're sitting in New York or close to that, it's going to be, we start at 7 a.m. in the morning, but it's a Sunday, so that's probably a nice way to spend your Sunday morning. In Europe, Barcelona, 1 o'clock CET. Dubai time, it's 4 o'clock. We start the show. Game start at 4:30. Do you guys expect another long game then tomorrow after today, saving energy?
I think it'll be longer than today, for sure. I'm not sure it's going to be 7 hours, but I'm expecting Magnus to at least apply some pressure because he could really actually kill the match tomorrow. If he wins again, imagine how Nepomniachtchi is going to be feeling with a rest day after that, 2 points down. Magnus has a golden opportunity. And yeah, I think he'll try. And he said before, that's his strategy, to tire out Nepomniachtchi.
And the biggest upset today with the game not being longer is that we had Jon Christian in the studio and we couldn't keep you for longer because the game was so short. But do you feel you lost today because you're leaving here without the moustache?
Yeah, at least I lost the moustache. But,
is that a win or is that a loss?
Could be a bit of both. I feel the very cold breeze now on my lips.
How did the Offersville community react when seeing you on TV?
Yeah, I saw some pictures posted on in our internal Facebook group, which was kind of funny. So yeah, they said I would do anything for chess. Yeah. Of course I would. So.
We love it. We love it. Thank you so much for losing the moustache and also for your excellent chess commentary for Game 7. 7 games remain, you guys, in the World Chess Championship match. Magnus Carlsen is still in the lead with 1 point. Game 8 coming up tomorrow. So we hope you guys all around the world will join us again tomorrow. Thanks for watching.